Chin-Chang'an, it's time for you to leave. Go. I looked at the woman standing before me. She wore a flowing purple dress, her aura noble, and her face breathtakingly beautiful. This was my master, Mu Yunyao. I stared at her, completely bewildered. Master, why? I asked, my voice thick with reluctance. I want to stay by your side. I don't want to leave you. A flicker of emotion crossed her stunning face. It wasn't touched by my words, though. She was struggling to suppress a deep, burning irritation. 10,000 years, she said, her voice cold. Do you have any idea how I've lived through these 10,000 years? I gave her a bright smile. Of course I do. For 10,000 years, you've had my company. You were never lonely. You must have been happy, surrounded by bliss every single day. Happy? Blissful? Bah. Mu Yunyao looked at my grinning face and looked like she wanted to slap me into the next life. 10,000 years ago, she had found me. I was only 6 years old then. She saw that my physical constitution was unique, something never seen before, and decided to take me as her disciple. She didn't realize back then that it was the start of her longest nightmare. I was indeed special, and I was smart. Anything she taught me, I memorized after hearing it just once. But as time passed, she realized something terrifying. No matter how hard I practiced, I couldn't break through. I couldn't even reach the most basic level of cultivation. She didn't give up on me. She poured everything she knew into my head. I learned it all, but I could only recite it. I couldn't use it. She searched the entire world for rare treasures and herbs to fix me, but nothing worked. Eventually, she accepted my fate. She thought she would just let me live out a normal human life by her side. But then she discovered I was immortal. I didn't age, and I didn't die. If I had been a quiet, obedient kid, maybe it would have been fine. But I was restless. I was trouble. For 10,000 years, I had made her life a living hell. Now, she had finally reached her breaking point. Master, are you serious about this? I asked, seeing the iron resolve in her eyes. My heart sank. I had been with her since I was 6. A 10,000-year bond wasn't something I could just walk away from. Go, she said, her voice softening slightly at my dejected look. But her logic won out. She needed me gone. You've stayed here long enough. It's time. Master, I've been with you for an eternity, I said, trying to sound as emotional as possible. I have no friends, no family, no one to rely on. The world is vast, but I have no place in it. She didn't waste words. With a wave of her hand, a glowing map appeared in the air. I looked into it. Even after 10,000 years, your Qin family bloodline still exists. You can go back and find your descendants. I was stunned. She had really thought this through. She was dead set on kicking me out. A master's command cannot be disobeyed, I said with a heavy sigh. If you want me to leave, I will, no matter how much it hurts. I just hope you can find happiness without me. Mu Yunyao sighed internally. We had been together for 10 millennia, after all. She wasn't completely heartless. Go then, she said. You've been with me since you were a child and haven't seen much of the world. Remember, people are wicked. Do not trust others easily. She immediately regretted saying it. I was full of schemes and tricks. I was probably the last person who needed that warning. Yes, master, I said, looking at her with total sincerity. She frowned. Why are you still here? I know it's hard to say goodbye, but you have to go. Yes, master, I repeated, but I didn't move an inch. Is there something else? She snapped. Master, we've been together for 10,000 years. I'm leaving now, and who knows when we'll meet again. What do you actually want? Her patience was hanging by a thread. I can't exactly leave empty-handed, can I? Shouldn't you give me a little parting gift? Mu Yunyao usually stayed calm no matter what happened, but I had a special way of making her want to strangle me. The problem was, I couldn't die. Even though she was now one of the most powerful beings in existence, she couldn't leave a scratch on her cultivation-less disciple. For 10,000 years, you've eaten my food, drank my wine, and used my resources. And now you want to loot me on your way out. You really are a wonderful disciple. Thank you for the compliment, master. But look at it this way. If your disciple looks like a beggar, it reflects poorly on you. Besides, I haven't been home in 10,000 years. I can't show up to the Qin family with nothing. I'm broke, master. Truly broke. She let out a cold laugh. I wasn't exactly a saint. I used to sneak out for months at a time to play. I had plenty of treasures stashed away, but I was never one to turn down more. Fine, take it. She threw a spatial ring at me. That contains things I've collected over the last 1,000 years. They aren't trash. It's enough for you to show off. Thank you, master. I tucked the ring away, beaming. Then, I continued to stand there. Now what? I could see the fire in her eyes now. Master, you know I'm slow and have no cultivation. The world is dangerous. Shouldn't you worry about my safety? Dangerous? Is there anything in this world more dangerous than you? Have you forgotten? Even I can't kill you. No one can hurt you. But master, it's about face. You're a legend. If I get beaten up because I can't fight back, won't you be embarrassed? I need a bodyguard. A bodyguard? You want me to be your bodyguard? I wouldn't dare, I said quickly. I want the Kirin. Mu Yunyao paused. You mean that guy in the Forbidden Forest? The two of you really are two peas in a pod. Fine. If he's willing to go, you can take him. She didn't stop me. Having a Kirin by my side would at least ensure I didn't get bullied. Then, I'm really leaving now, master. Good. Master, make sure you're happy while I'm gone. I know. Really, master. Be happy. Get out. Understood. I hummed a cheerful tune as I strode away, my heart already racing with excitement. I was finally leaving. I started picturing the world outside, the vibrant cities, the food, the people. I was going to live it up and enjoy every second of this beautiful world. Behind me, Mu Yunyao's expression turned icy. She watched me leave with a look of pure confusion and growing irritation. To her, it was insulting. How could I be this happy to leave her? Even if she was the one kicking me out, shouldn't I show a little sadness? A little regret? Suddenly, a wave of cold energy washed over my back. I froze, a shiver running down my spine. After 10,000 years together, I knew that feeling all too well. She was moody. She was the one who told me to go, yet she was the one getting angry about it. Women are truly the most fickle creatures in existence. Of course, I didn't dare say that out loud. I valued my life far too much. I wiped the grin off my face, straightened my back, and walked away with a steady, serious pace until I was finally out of her sight. My destination wasn't far. It took about 15 minutes to reach the edge of the Forbidden Forest. The name said it all. It was a place of taboos and death. Most people wouldn't dare step a foot inside. Even the weakest monsters here were rank 5, equivalent to a human in the supernatural realm. I didn't have any cultivation myself, but I knew how the world worked. The path of power was divided into levels: spirit gathering, origin condensation, true chi, transcendent, supernatural, god transformation, void shifting, sovereign, immortal, and finally, the Great Emperor realm. My master was one of the few peak great emperors in the world. To others, this forest was a nightmare. To me, it felt like walking into my own backyard. I strolled through the dense trees, relaxed and carefree. Not a single monster appeared. It was as if they didn't even exist. Hidden in the thickets, a young monster cub watched me with wide, confused eyes. "Mom, why are we hiding?" it whispered. "That human looks harmless. He doesn't have any power." Its mother hissed, her eyes full of terror. "Harmless? He's a walking disaster. Remember his face, child. If you ever see him again, run as far as you can. Do you understand?" "But why?" "For others, the forest is dangerous because of us," she whispered. "But for us, the forest is dangerous because of him. Don't ask questions. Just remember." I sighed as I walked through the empty woods. Not a single beast in sight. It's lonely being this impressive. I suppose they're all just too intimidated by my presence to say hello. It didn't matter. I still had Big Yellow. I reached the heart of the forest. There, a massive Kirin lay lazily on the ground, napping. As I approached, its eyelids flickered, but it didn't open them. I walked right up to it and leaned my back against its warm, scaly side. "Big Yellow," I whispered. The Kirin's breathing hitched. Its body tensed slightly at the name. It clearly hated it, but it still didn't open its eyes. "We've known each other for nearly 10,000 years, I said with a small smile. "Maybe I'm just getting old, but I've been reminiscing lately. Remember the first time we met? I looked at you with passion. You looked at me with passion. I said hello, and you were so happy you swallowed me whole." "Shut up. What the hell do you want?" The Kirin finally snapped, its voice rumbling like thunder. That memory was a sore spot for him. He had swallowed me, only to realize I wouldn't die. I spent days inside his stomach, talking his ear off until my master showed up and beat him within an inch of his life. It was a dark day for the king of the forest. "I'm leaving," I said. The Kirin went still. He kept his eyes shut, but his voice sounded groggy. "Sneaking out again? Your master isn't in seclusion. I can feel her aura. You'll get caught." "No, this time I'm going far away. I might be gone for a very long time." The Kirin snorted. "Then have a nice trip. Don't let the door hit you on the way out." "That's cold," I teased. "Usually you're thrilled when I sneak out. What's wrong?" "Nonsense. Before, your master was busy and you stayed close. Don't you know the rules she set for us? You can't die, but I can. I'm not looking to get turned into a rug." Even as the king of the forbidden forest, he was terrified of Mu Yunyao. Her word was law. "Relax," I said, my voice turning serious. Master agreed to it. "She said I need a powerful protector for this journey. She specifically named you, Big Yellow. In her heart, you're a true powerhouse." The Kirin's eyes snapped open. He stood up so fast I was tossed onto the grass. "A powerhouse? She really said that about me? I wouldn't lie to you. She has good taste." The Kirin puffed out his chest, looking proud. "Where are we going? Let's move." "What's the rush?" I asked, brushing the dirt off my clothes. "I want to leave before she changes her mind." "Wait, why did she let you go anyway?" I looked down, putting on my best heartbroken face. "She kicked me out. She said she's tired of looking at me. I used to be her treasure, but now I'm just a weed in her garden." The Kirin blinked, surprised by my sudden sadness, but he couldn't be bothered with human emotions for long. The chance to see the world was too good to pass up. Fine, but we're doing things differently this time. I am not turning into a dog. Every time we used to sneak out, I made him transform into a large yellow dog so we wouldn't draw attention. He was still bitter about it. "I'm a Kirin," he barked. "People ride horses, they ride donkeys, they even ride magical beasts. But nobody rides a damn dog. It's embarrassing. If anyone is being ridden this time, it's me riding you. Hey, we're brothers, right? Don't be like that." I laughed, nudging him toward the exit. "Let's just start walking. We can negotiate on the way." "Negotiate all you want. I am not being a dog." While we were arguing, far away in the northern territory of the Great Zhou Kingdom, a different kind of storm was brewing. In the city of Yingwei, the atmosphere inside the Chun family estate was suffocating. "Master Chun, our Liu family coming here today is giving you a huge amount of face," a man sneered, looking down at the gathered Chun elders. "I suggest you cooperate. Do you really think you're still the same powerful family you were years ago?" The Chun family members trembled with rage. It was the classic story, the tiger falls and the dogs bark. The Chun family hadn't always lived in Great Zhou. They had migrated here generations ago and were once the undisputed #1 clan in the entire kingdom. Back then, the Liu family were nothing more than their servants, surviving only because of the Chun family's charity. Now, the servants had come to spit on their masters. The Liu family had risen to power with lightning speed. Back in the day, they were so desperate to prove their loyalty to us that they established a strict rule. Every daughter of the Liu family had to marry into the Chun family. It was their way of staying connected to our greatness. But they never expected the Chun family to fall. We used to be the undisputed kings of the Northern Territory. Over the last century, however, we had withered away, forced to retreat and hide within the walls of Yingwei City. When we were at our peak, the Liu family clung to us like leeches. The moment they became one of the 3 great families of the Great Zhou Kingdom, they cut us off completely. Seeing them show up at our door now was a shock to everyone. My family had planned to welcome them with hospitality, but their attitude was beyond insulting. Lu Chengfeng, my father, Chen Jingyuan, said firmly, "Our families haven't spoken in 100 years. You didn't need to come all this way just to humiliate us. As for that old rule your family made, you can do whatever you want with it. Why come here and act like you're taking power by force?" My father didn't back down, despite the massive gap in our social standing. Lu Chengfeng looked surprised. He clearly didn't expect a dying family to have any fire left in them. To him, our anger was just a pathetic joke. "Our eldest young lady has been scouted by the Shangqing sect," Lu Chengfeng sneered. "She is also in love with the 5th prince of the Great Zhou imperial family. You people are Uncle, let me speak, a young woman interrupted. This was Lu Mingyan, the daughter of the current Lu family head. By their own ancient laws, she was the one meant to marry into our house. Of course, we considered that rule dead long ago since they had ghosted us for decades. It was clear she held all the power. With one word, Lu Chengfeng stepped back and went silent. Lu Mingyan looked at my father and offered a thin, fake smile. Master Chun, our family received many favors from yours in the past. We didn't just stand by when you first started to decline. Even though our statuses are different now, the Lu family remembers its roots. Those old rules aren't appropriate anymore. I came personally to settle this once and for all. What do you think? She gestured to her attendants. We aren't stingy. Here are 10,000 low-grade spirit stones and 5 Ningyuan pills. Consider it compensation for the Qin family. The room went quiet. 10,000 stones, 5 Ningyuan pills? In the old days, we wouldn't have blinked at such a small amount. But now, we were starving for resources. I could see the elders wavering, but no one spoke. Taking that gift meant accepting a permanent brand of shame. Haha, the Lu family is generous indeed. My father laughed coldly. But the Qin family doesn't take handouts. We appreciate the thought, Miss Lu, but no thank you. He rejected her without a second of hesitation. Lu Mingyan's smile vanished. She was incredibly arrogant. She hadn't looked at a single one of us as an equal since she stepped inside. In her mind, her mere presence was a gift, and we should have been kissing her boots for the compensation. What? She hissed, her brow furrowing. You won't accept it? Don't tell me you're still trying to cling to my family. Are you actually dreaming that I would still marry into this house? Her voice was thick with mockery. Cling to you. I stepped forward, unable to stay silent. Miss Lu, you're overthinking it. Do you really think I don't know why you're here? I looked her dead in the eye. Not many people remember the old ties between our families, but some do. You're in love with the 5th prince. You want to marry into the imperial family. But you're terrified that this old marriage contract will become a stain on your reputation. You're here to wipe away the evidence before the royals find out. Am I wrong? My father wasn't a fool, and neither was I. We saw right through her. To the high and mighty Lu family, we were a blemish that needed to be erased. Chun Zhengyuan, you better think carefully, Lu Chengfeng threatened. If we weren't thinking about the past, a family with your pathetic strength wouldn't last a second against the combined wrath of the Lu family and the 5th prince. He couldn't understand why we were being so difficult. To him, we should have just taken the money and shut up. The men of the Qin family aren't afraid to die, I said, my voice echoing through the hall. What you want is the original contract the Lu family delivered to us all those years ago, right? I held up a piece of parchment. Lu Mingyan's eyes locked onto it instantly. Who are you? She asked. The son of the family head, Chun Yinxian, I replied coldly. She looked me up and down. The young master of this generation? You have a decent look about you, but your cultivation is lacking. You can't even be compared to the 5th prince. But you're right. According to the old rules, you were the one I was supposed to marry. I let out a sharp, mocking laugh. Miss Lu, you must be joking. When has anyone from your family ever been worthy of marrying a young master of the Qin family? You're thinking too highly of yourself. How dare you? Lu Chengfeng roared. Lu Mingyan's face turned ashen. My words hit her where it hurt. Back when the rule was made, the Lu family daughters were only ever allowed to marry our branch disciples. They were never high status enough to marry the heir. I was pointing out that even when we were masters and servants, they weren't good enough for the top spot. Fine, Lu Mingyan spat, her voice icy. The Qin family is reduced to nothing but sharp tongues. Give me the contract. Keep your pride and forget the compensation. From this moment on, our families have no connection. We don't want your money, I said, and I'll give you the paper. But since the Lu family is the one breaking the oath and acting in bad faith, you are the one who owes us. As the eldest daughter, you will apologize to the Qin family. The room went dead silent. Lu Mingyan looked like she was about to explode. Apologize? To you? She screamed. You're delusional. Does the Qin family even have the right to ask that? Do you have the guts? I'll show you if we have the right, I countered. Lu Qingfeng's face darkened. A powerful aura erupted from his body, heavy and suffocating. He was at the peak of the true Qi realm. My father had only just broken into that realm recently. The pressure was immense, pinning us down. To them, we were nothing more than ants they could crush at any moment. Kid, Lu Chengfeng growled, stepping toward me. Remember this. Before you talk big, make sure you have the strength to back it up. You need strength, Lu Chengfeng growled. He looked at me with pure disdain. Without it, your words are nothing but a joke. To him, I was just a waste of space. I hadn't even broken through the Ningyuan realm, yet here I was, disrespecting the great Lu family. He expected me to crumble under his pressure, but I didn't. I met his gaze with steady, unwavering eyes. I felt the crushing weight of his aura, but I forced myself to stand up. I straightened my back until I was looking him right in the eye. I wouldn't back down. Not today. Lu Qingfeng's expression shifted from mockery to shock. He could feel my resolve. He realized right then that I had an iron will. I saw the change in his eyes, a flicker of fear. He was thinking that if I were allowed to grow, I would become a nightmare for his family. I saw the killing intent flash across his face. He wanted to end me right here, before I could become a threat. My father, Chen Jingyuan, noticed it too. He moved instinctively, sensing the danger. I didn't blink. I stared Lu Chengfeng down and spoke clearly. The hidden dragon will eventually find its reign, I said, my voice sharp as a blade. Today, the crane spreads its wings to pierce the sky. One day, the Qin family will take back everything we've lost. Every single thing. Lu Chengfeng burst out laughing. It was a cold, ugly sound. Take it back? With this pathetic family. You have fewer than 100 people left. You're delusional. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. I think I'll just see if you can even survive the day. He raised his hand to strike, but a sudden sound stopped him. Asterisk clap. 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 Asterisk. Someone was applauding. We all turned toward the entrance of the hall. A young man was standing there, looking perfectly relaxed. Beside him sat a large yellow dog. The dog had a strange, resentful look in its eyes, like it was judging everyone in the room. It was bizarre. Lu Qingfeng and Lu Mingyan looked confused. My father and the rest of the Qin family were just as lost. We had no idea who this guy was. Who are you? Lu Qingfeng demanded, his brow furrowed. The young man smiled faintly. Me? I'm from the Qin family. My name is Qin Chang'an. The room went silent. We all looked at each other, whispering. None of us had ever seen him before. Was he some long-lost relative? An illegitimate son? My father, Qin Jingyuan, was the only one who didn't look confused. He looked stunned. He was staring at the newcomer as if he'd seen a ghost, his mind racing through old memories. Lu Qingfeng sneered. The Qin family gets bolder by the second. This kid has no cultivation at all, yet he talks as big as the other one. Aren't you afraid I'll kill you? Qin Chang'an didn't even flinch. Kill me. You're welcome to try. Arrogant brat. Lu Qingfeng didn't strike yet. Instead, he unleashed his full aura again. He expected the sheer pressure to crush an ordinary person like Qin Chang'an instantly. But Qin Chang'an just stood there. He looked bored. He had spent years following his master, Mu Yunyao, a peak-level powerhouse. Compared to her, Lu Qingfeng's pressure felt like a light breeze. Big Yellow, Qin Chang'an said, ignoring the man trying to kill him. The yellow dog gave him a reluctant look, but it trotted over to the side, picked up a chair with its teeth, and placed it behind Qin Chang'an. The entire room watched in stunned silence as Qin Chang'an calmly sat down. It wasn't just that he was unaffected. Even his dog was moving freely under the pressure of a true Qi realm expert. Impossible, Lu Qingfeng stammered. Who are you really? He couldn't wrap his head around it. Was this kid hiding his power? But he looked so young. How could the Qin family have a master like this? Lu Mingyan was staring at him too, her face pale. The situation was spiraling out of her control. Qin Chang'an. Qin Chang'an. My father suddenly stood up. His voice was trembling. Are you truly Qin Chang'an? The Chang for longevity, the N for peace. He was shaking so hard, he could barely stand. He even used a formal, respectful title. It seems someone in the family still remembers my name, Qin Chang'an said with a small smile. That saves me a lot of explaining. My father gasped. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, he walked over and dropped to his knees. Chen Jingyuan, the 135th head of the Qin family, greets the ancestor. Ancestor? This young man was our ancestor? What are you all doing? My father barked at the rest of us. Kneel. Pay your respects to the ancestor. We were all dazed, but we didn't dare disobey. One by one, the entire Chun family hit the floor. 135th generation disciple greets the ancestor. The voices echoed through the hall. Lu Mingyan and Lu Chengfeng stood frozen. If the Chun family had an ancestor like this, why were we in such a miserable state? They probably thought we were putting on a play, but they knew we hadn't expected them to show up today. Lu Chengfeng's face was tight with worry. He leaned toward Lu Mingyan and whispered, "Miss, I've heard rumors of this. They say a Chun family ancestor was taken away by a legendary powerhouse long ago. Everyone thought it was a lie or that he was dead. But if he's really back? A few hundred years?" Lu Mingyan whispered back, looking at Chen Chang'an's youthful face. "If he's been alive for centuries, how strong is he? He might be as powerful as the strongest experts in the great Zhou imperial family." My father overheard them and let out a cold laugh. "A few hundred years," he said, looking up with pride. "Our ancestor has been away from the Chen family for 10,000 years. Lu Mingyan's eyes nearly popped out of her head. 10,000 years? He's lived for 10,000 years. The great Zhou kingdom hadn't even existed for 1,000 years. To her, a 10,000-year-old being wasn't just a master. He was an ancient monster, a living legend. And he was sitting right in front of us. I looked at the people kneeling before me. They were wondering just how powerful I had become. It was a level of strength they couldn't even imagine, let alone touch. "Everyone, stand up," I said calmly. I sighed. I never expected the Chun family to fall into such a pathetic state. My words made them hang their heads in shame. I turned my gaze toward Lu Mingyan and Lu Chengfeng. They were trembling, their faces pale with terror. I gave them a small, cold smile. "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you." I glanced at the marriage annulment contract on the table. "As for this paper, you aren't taking it back today. Go home. Tell your family that the Chun family will visit soon to deliver it personally. Now get out." I didn't have a lick of cultivation base in me, but I played the part of an ancient powerhouse perfectly. They didn't hesitate. They bowed deeply, scrambled to their feet, and sprinted out of the hall as if their lives depended on it. Once they were gone, I turned to the young man, Chen Yinxian. "You did well earlier. You have courage. But tell me, weren't you afraid? Being stubborn without the strength to back it up usually gets you killed." Chen Yinxian looked at me, his eyes bright with excitement. "Ancestor, I was betting that the Lu family wouldn't dare wipe us out." "Oh, why is that?" I asked. "The Lu family is one of the 3 great families of the great Zhou kingdom," he explained. "They care about their reputation. Everyone knows our families are linked. They can ignore us, but if they slaughtered us, they'd be branded as backstabbers who kick people while they're down. Killing me wouldn't gain them anything but a bad name." He smiled, showing he wasn't just being impulsive, he was thinking. I nodded, satisfied. "And you aren't afraid to die?" "I am," he said firmly. "But I can die. The Chun family's dignity cannot be insulted." The elders looked at him with pride. He was a worthy young master. "Well said," I declared, my voice booming with authority. "With me here, no one will insult this family again. And you won't die." Beside me, my dog, De Huang, rolled his eyes. He looked at me with pure disdain. "With you here? You're useless. You're just putting on a show. If things get real, you'll be hiding behind me." Chun Jingyuan, the current head, was shaking with emotion. "With the ancestor back, our family will surely reclaim everything we lost. Don't count on me for everything." I cautioned him immediately. I had to manage their expectations. It's not convenient for someone of my status to interfere in every little fight. People would say I'm a bully. In reality, I just couldn't fight. I was great at taking a hit. Nothing could kill me, but I had 0 offensive power. "Don't worry about the family's strength," I continued. "With me here, your cultivation will improve soon enough. It's only a matter of time." The crowd erupted in cheers. I dismissed everyone except for Chun Jingyuan and Chen Yinxian. If I remember correctly, I said once we were alone, the Qin family wasn't in the great Zhou kingdom 10,000 years ago. We were millions of miles away. How did you end up here? Chen Jingyuan sighed. "After you left, we had our golden age, but slowly, the family declined. We kept moving to survive and eventually settled here, hoping to rebuild. But we just kept sinking. Forget the past, I said, cutting him off. I've prepared some things for you. You decide how to use them. I tossed a spatial ring to him. When he peeked inside, his jaw hit the floor. What quality are these spirit stones? High grade. There are even top grade ones. His voice was trembling. Ancestor, there are at least 100,000 high-grade stones in here. Chen Yinshin gasped. In this kingdom, most people used low-grade stones. High-grade ones were treasures. 100,000 was an unthinkable fortune. And that wasn't all. The ring was packed with high-level techniques, martial arts, and rare herbs they didn't even recognize. Yinshin, I said, looking at the boy. You have talent. Would you like to train under me? The boy didn't hesitate. Ancestor, I would be honored. Yes. Good. Go rest. Find me tomorrow. The mood in the Chen family shifted instantly from despair to soaring hope. Chen Jingyuan personally led me to the best courtyard in the estate. It was modest compared to a palace, but the scenery was nice. Honestly, it was better than the wooden shack my master, Mu Yunyao, had made me live in for 10,000 years. Ancestor, please forgive the humble accommodations, Chen Jingyuan said. It's fine. I like it. One more thing, he said, reaching into his own spatial ring. The ancestors left an instruction. If you ever returned, we were to give this to you immediately. He handed me a jade box. I opened it and found a crystal-clear bead inside. I couldn't tell what it was made of, but the moment I touched it, my body hummed. For 10,000 years, I had felt nothing, no spiritual energy, no connection to the world. But now, I felt a violent resonance. What is this? I asked, my heart racing. The records call it the fetal bead, Chen Jingyuan explained. Our legends say that when you were born, this bead appeared with you. Your mother supposedly gave birth to both you and this stone. I stared at the bead. Could this be it? After 10,000 years of being immortal, was I finally going to be able to cultivate? The thought of my mother giving birth to a stone was bizarre. Was I supposed to call this bead my brother? According to Chen Jingyuan, the family ancestors intended to give me these beads once I grew up, but things went wrong. I was kidnapped, and the family fell into ruin. Over the centuries, 8 of the 9 beads were lost or stolen. Only this one remained. Where are the other 8? I asked. Chen Jingyuan shook his head. It's been too long. I only know that one is likely in the hands of the great Zhou imperial family. They took it by force years ago. We don't know why they wanted it, or even what it does. To us, it's just a pretty stone with no use for cultivation. I nodded. I understand. You can go now? Oh, and prepare some food. A lot of it. Da Huang has a massive appetite. Once Chen Jingyuan left, the dog gave me a look of approval. At least you're sensible enough to get me fed, he barked in my mind. Da Huang, I feel a strange connection to this thing, I said, my voice dropping. I'm going to my room to study it. The dog nodded. He knew me well enough to see I wasn't joking. My usual carefree mask had slipped. I went inside, sat on the bed, and held the fetal bead in my palm. I stared at it, wondering what secret it held. Suddenly, the bead turned into a streak of white light and shot directly into my forehead. It happened so fast I couldn't even blink. My first thought was panic. Was my bead brother trying to possess me? But then, the bead dissolved into a warm wave of energy that surged through my entire body. It felt incredible. I almost let out a moan of relief, but I bit my tongue. Then I felt it. For the first time in 10,000 years, I sensed spiritual energy. My pores opened. My meridians, which had been dormant since the dawn of time, began to pull in the essence of the world. I can cultivate, I whispered. I can actually do it. The energy finally settled in the space between my eyebrows and vanished. For 10 millennia, my master Mu Yunyao had fed me every rare herb and celestial fruit in existence, and nothing worked. It turns out my talent wasn't missing. It was locked away in these 9 beads. I was a freak of nature, just like my master always said. I laughed at the absurdity of it. I had been immortal for so long, and now the door was finally open. I didn't waste a second. I had every legendary technique memorized. I just had to pick one. The Supreme Overlord body? No, too bulky. The 9-cycle heaven rotation? Too much work. I didn't want to restart my progress 9 times. I wanted something elegant. Something sharp. Let's go with the sword, I decided with a grin. Since people already think I'm a bit of a prick, I might as well be a master of the blade. I began practicing the peerless sword scripture. It was a technique Mu Yunyao had taught me that required insane levels of comprehension. Luckily, after 10,000 years of doing nothing but thinking, my mind was my strongest weapon. I took a deep breath and activated the mantra. Outside, De Huang's ears perked up. He felt the air around the house begin to vibrate. The spiritual energy in the atmosphere didn't just flow toward me. It screamed. It formed a literal whirlpool, centered right on my room. The kid is actually doing it, De Huang muttered, his eyes wide. He was a menace when he was powerless. If he actually gained strength, the world is in trouble. In the city of Yanyue, every cultivator stopped what they were doing. They looked up, confused. The spiritual energy in the air was vanishing. It was being sucked toward the Chun estate like water down a drain. What's happening? People whispered. Is the Chun family head breaking through to the true Qi realm? The other two major families, the Su and the Ning, were terrified. They watched the sky, wondering if the Chun family had found some god-tier treasure. Meanwhile, the Chun disciples were ecstatic. They knew exactly where that energy was going. To them, it was proof that their ancestor was a living god. But as hours passed, the scale of the phenomenon grew terrifying. I wasn't just taking the energy from the city. I was draining the entire region. De Huang stopped eating his meat. He stared at the horizon. He's drained everything for hundreds of miles, the dog whispered. And he's still going? Is he trying to jump straight into the transcendent realm in one night? By the time I was done, the entire Beiyuan prefecture had been sucked dry of spiritual energy. It was a total blackout of the world's essence. In the regional capital, the strongest men in the province were panicking. Nan Xiangtian, head of the powerful Nan family, rushed to the governor's office. Governor Wu, he shouted. Do you see this? The energy is gone. Did some powerhouse arrive in our province? If so, tell me who it is so I can make sure my family doesn't accidentally offend them. Governor Wu Chengfeng could only offer a bitter, helpless smile. I have no idea, Nan. I haven't heard of any masters visiting. Unless a genius was just born who is so talented that the world itself can't keep up with him. Governor Wu Chengfeng frowned as he looked at Nan Xiangtian. If this phenomenon was real, we had to investigate it thoroughly. Anyone capable of causing such a massive disturbance was destined to become a giant in this world. It was better to win them over now. The future rewards would be unimaginable. Nan Xiangtian was practically vibrating with excitement. He agreed completely. We decided to join forces. Whoever found the source of the energy drain first would notify the other immediately. They set off to uncover the truth, but they weren't the only ones watching the sky. Lu Mingyan and Lu Chengfeng hadn't left the Beiyuan prefecture yet. When the spiritual energy suddenly vanished, their first thought was of the Chun family ancestor. I had terrified them so deeply that the mere mention of my name made Lu Mingyan tremble. She asked her uncle how powerful I actually was. If I was the type of person to hold a grudge, could the Lu family even survive? Unfathomable, Lu Chengfeng whispered, his face pale. He explained that since we left the Chun estate, the energy had been drained across the entire province. Even after traveling at full speed, he couldn't detect a single trace of spiritual essence. In a matter of hours, I had sucked the entire region dry. Lu Mingyan didn't understand. Why would I do something that seemingly hurt everyone, including my own family? To her, it seemed like a waste of resources. It's a warning, Lu Chengfeng replied. He saw it as a message to the entire Beiyuan prefecture. People would investigate, they would find out I had returned, and the news would spread like wildfire across the Great Zhou Kingdom. He believed I was building momentum for the Chun family's rise. Soon, they wouldn't just be the top family in the city, they might not even care about the Great Zhou Kingdom at all. His analysis convinced Lu Mingyan. She looked regretful. She wished her family had an ancestor like me. She asked if there was any way to fix the relationship, any way to cling to the giant tree that was the Chun family. Lu Chengfeng's eyes lit up. He realized they needed to get back to the Lu family head immediately. They couldn't let anyone else beat them to it. They pushed themselves to their limit, racing home to report what they had seen. Back in Yingwei City, inside the Chun estate, I let out a long breath. So, this was what it felt like to cultivate. It hadn't been long, but the sensation of energy flowing through me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It was no wonder everyone craved this power. Having cultivation made me feel truly different. I wanted to keep going, but I realized I couldn't absorb any more energy. It felt like my body had reached its absolute limit. I pushed open my door and took a deep breath. The world looked sharper, clearer. "So, De Huang," I said, looking at the dog with a smug grin. "Am I a genius or what? Look at me. I've already broken through to the first level of the Qi condensation realm." De Huang stopped and stared at me. He narrowed his eyes, inspecting my aura. "You've been absorbing energy for 10,000 years, and you only reached the first level?" He looked confused. "That's impossible. With the amount of energy you just swallowed, you should be much higher. Are you suppressing your power?" I shook my head. "No. All that energy only got me this far. And now, my body won't take any more. Even spirit stones don't work." "Strange," the dog muttered. "Nothing about you is normal. Hit me. I want to see your actual combat strength." I hesitated. I didn't want to hurt him, but he snapped at me, telling me that even my master couldn't kill me, so I certainly couldn't kill him. I didn't argue. I pointed my finger like a sword and unleashed a streak of sword chi. It was fast, blindingly fast, and packed with immense pressure. It didn't hurt De Huang, but it definitely shocked him. "You're a freak," he barked. "Your cultivation is only at the first level of Qi condensation, but that strike had the power of the transcendent realm. Do you realize what that means? You've jumped 2 entire major realms in combat power. If you ever become a great emperor, no one under heaven will be your match. Not even your master." My eyes lit up. If I could surpass my master, I could finally make her do whatever I wanted. De Huang saw the look in my eyes and scoffed. "Don't get ahead of yourself. She might just lock you up so you can never cultivate again." I sighed. For now, my progress was stalled. De Huang pointed out that the problem was likely the fetal beads. If I could find the other 8, my path forward would be clear. He laughed at me, saying he'd never seen anyone so talented, that they managed to eject their own cultivation talent while still in the womb. I didn't mind the teasing. I just needed those beads. I knew the great Zhou imperial family held at least one. I laughed, thinking about how hard my master had worked all these years to help me, never thinking to just ask the Qin family. "Poor old lady," I joked. Suddenly, a cold shiver ran down my spine. It was a familiar, terrifying sensation. My heart skipped a beat. "Wait, she's not following me, is she?" De Huang gave me a look of pure contempt. "You were so brave a second ago. Now you're shaking? She isn't here, but with her power, she can check in on you whenever she wants. You better watch your mouth." I nodded, feeling a lingering sense of dread. My master's methods of discipline were legendary. I decided to change the subject. Chen Yinxian was approaching the room. De Huang asked why I was bothering to train the kid. "The Qin family is my blood," I explained. "This generation needs a leader. I won't stay here forever. It's too boring. He's the best fit for the job." De Huang grunted in understanding and went off to take a nap. I waved my hand toward the door. "Come in." Chen Yinxian walked in, his face full of awe and shock. He looked at me like I was the center of the universe. I watched Chen Yinxian walk toward me, his eyes wide with disbelief. He had clearly heard the dog talking. In this world, common spirit beasts can't speak, let alone a stray-looking mutt like De Huang. Yinxian stood before me and hesitated. He looked at the dog, then back at me, his voice trembling with curiosity. "Ancestor, were you just talking to him?" "Oh, you mean De Huang?" I replied, keeping my voice mysterious. "Yes, we were talking. Don't look down on him. He's no ordinary dog." Yinxian leaned in, his face full of awe. "Not an ordinary dog? Could he be? Ancestor, is De Huang a dog king?" I nearly choked. A dog king? I looked at De Huang, who just huffed, turned his head away in total boredom, and went back to sleep. He didn't even care. "Let's get to business," I said, shifting the focus. "Among the younger generation of the Qin family, your talent is the best. From today on, you will stay by my side to cultivate. Based on your performance yesterday, I've decided to teach you an Earth Grade technique, the Supreme Overlord Body Art." "Earth Grade?" Yinxian gasped. He didn't realize that my Earth Grade wasn't what he thought. In this tiny kingdom, people barely understood the true scales of power. As I began to impart the technique, Yunchuan's expression shifted from excitement to pure shock. He felt the complexity of the mantras flowing into his mind. Ancestor, is this really Earth grade? He asked, his voice shaking. I feel like even heaven grade techniques couldn't compare to the mysteries in this art. I smiled. Well, there's a possibility that this Earth refers to the vast Earth of the higher realms, not the simple ranking you know. Yunxian froze like a statue. In the Great Zhou Kingdom, nobody even knew such levels existed. They were frogs at the bottom of a well. But the Chun family had once been legendary, and Yunxian knew enough history to realize he was holding a miracle in his hands. Don't be surprised, I told him calmly. I don't keep trash in my collection. Practice hard. This generation needs a leader, and that's going to be you. Yunchuan's face flushed with excitement. To hear such words from the ancestor himself, the weight of that praise was massive. With you here, I wouldn't dare to be arrogant, he said nervously. My power is too high. I lied smoothly, maintaining my facade. My status makes it inappropriate for me to personally step in for every small fight. That's why you need to grow. Then Yunxian will work his hardest. I won't let you down. And so, the training began. While Yunxian pushed himself to the limit, the rest of the Chun family followed suit. An entire month passed in a flash. The family's strength didn't just grow, it leaped across entire levels. But while we were evolving, the outside world was growing restless. In Yingwei City, there were 3 major families. The Su and Ning families were the local bullies, while the Chun family was seen as the weak outsider. Usually, the Su and Ning families suppressed the Chins at every turn. But for a whole month, the Chin family had kept their gates locked, refusing all visitors. Who do they think they are? The head of the Su family growled in his hall. The top family of Yingwei City? They won't even give us the face to open their doors. The head of the Ning family nodded, his eyes narrowing. Something happened a month ago? Was there a genius born? I heard rumors of strange phenomena over their estate. I checked, the Su head replied, frowning. No pregnant women in that house for 2 years. It's not a newborn. Then what caused that energy surge? It couldn't be Chun Jingyuan breaking through. He doesn't have the talent. The 2 leaders locked eyes. The same thought flashed through both their minds. Their anger turned into greedy excitement. A treasure, they said simultaneously. That's it, the Ning head exclaimed. The Chin family must have found a legendary artifact. That's why they've ignored us. They're hiding it. They both felt a surge of regret for waiting so long. If it was a treasure, was it already used up? Brother Su, I think we still have a chance, the Ning head whispered, his eyes burning. I bet it's not a pill, but a weapon or a cultivation tool. Something that absorbs spiritual energy from the surroundings. If we take it, we could move beyond this city. We could rule the entire North Plain Prefecture. Maybe even find a place in the imperial capital. The Su head's heart hammered against his ribs. You're right, but they've had a month to grow stronger. Taking it won't be easy. So what? How much can they improve in a month? If our 2 families join forces, the Chins are finished. Gather the men. We strike fast before anyone else notices. While they plotted their theft, I was looking at Yunxian back at the estate. Ancestor, I actually reached the 1st level of the true Qi realm. Yunxian shouted, his face beaming. In just 1 month, he had jumped from the 7th level of spirit gathering all the way past the condensation realm. He had reached the same level his father had been at only a month prior. To him, it felt like the greatest dream he'd ever had. I looked at his excitement and felt a bit like a rich man watching a beggar find a gold coin. Yunxian, your talent was never the problem. The problem was the lack of resources in this backwater kingdom. Do you know what makes a super genius? It's not just talent. It's the mountain of resources behind them. I leaned back, looking toward the horizon. This world is huge. The Great Zhou Kingdom is just a speck of dust. If you really want to make a name for yourself, you have to leave this place and see what's out there. Yunxian looked out the window, his heart filled with a new, burning ambition. Go out and see. He was ready. And just in time, too, because I could hear the sounds of an angry mob approaching our front gates. If you had grown up in a place where the spiritual energy was truly abundant, and if you had the right resources, you wouldn't be stuck at the 1st level of the true Qi realm at 16. You could have reached the transcendent realm by now. I had spent most of my time in seclusion with my master, but I used to sneak out to play quite often. I didn't know everything about the world, but I had met a few favored children of heaven. Every single one of them was a monster, young, powerful, and destined to lead their generation. Ancestor, Yunxian said, his eyes wide with shock. Are you saying there are really people who can reach the transcendent realm at 16? It was a reality he couldn't even imagine. To him, that kind of cultivation speed was impossible. That's why you need to go out and see the world, I said with a smile. A frog at the bottom of a well can never know how vast the sky truly is. I understand, Ancestor. Thank you for the lesson. Yunxuan's voice was filled with a new longing. I could see the seed of ambition taking root in his heart. I had two reasons for pushing him. First, gaining experience would only benefit his growth. Second, I had my own agenda. The fetal beads were scattered across the world. Finding them all on my own would be a nightmare. But if I had talented disciples helping me, the efficiency would skyrocket. As we spoke, Chen Jingyuan entered the courtyard. He glanced at Yunxian, his face radiating pride. Seeing his son's cultivation leap forward under my guidance made him feel like the family's future was limitless. Greetings, Ancestor, Jingyuan said, his expression turning serious. Our scouts in Yangue City have sent word. The Su and Ning families are making a move. I suspect they're coming for us. The Su and Ning families were the other two powers in the city. I wasn't worried. With the Chun family's current strength, those two wouldn't find any easy pickings. How has everyone improved this month? I asked. Ancestor, the family has transformed thanks to the resources you brought back, Jingyuan reported excitedly. I've reached the 2nd level of the transcendent realm. Several elders are at the peak of the 9th level of true Qi. Most of the clansmen have reached the true Qi realm, though the younger generation is still in the pulse condensation stage. He was visibly shaking with emotion. In just 1 month, I had completely overhauled the family. At this rate, they would surpass their former glory in his lifetime. If you've improved that much, what are you afraid of? I asked. Jingyuan froze. He realized I was right. Why was he still acting like a victim? When your strength grows, your mindset needs to grow with it, I said, chuckling. Understand. I understand, Ancestor. Thank you for the reminder. Stop chatting. De Huang interrupted, his dog voice gruff. They're already here. Jingyuan and Yunxuan's expressions turned cold. The fact that De Huang could talk wasn't a secret anymore. They knew he was no ordinary dog, but a king among beasts. Ancestor, let us handle this, Jingyuan said. There's no need to trouble you. No, I replied, leaning back. I want to watch the show. Just ignore me. At the front gates, the elites of the Su and Ning families were gathered. Their goal was clear. They wanted the treasure they assumed we were hiding. Head Su, Head Ning, one of our guards, Chen Jianyuan, said firmly. The Chen family isn't receiving guests today. You should. Cut the nonsense. Head Ning snapped. The Chen family sure is arrogant lately. We come here in person, and you dare shut the door in our faces? As he spoke, Head Ning's eyes narrowed. He sensed something off about the guard. Brother Su, if I remember correctly, this is Chun Jianyuan. Wasn't he only at the pulse condensation stage? How is he in the true Qi realm now? Head Su noticed it too. His heart skipped a beat. A month ago, this man was nothing. Now, he had leaped an entire realm. The rumors were true. The Qin family had changed. Instead of fear, their eyes filled with greed. If a mere guard could improve this much, the treasure we had must be legendary. They didn't stop to think that if a guard was this strong, what about the rest of the family? Their desire blinded them. Step aside, Head Su said, his voice cold. Or don't blame us for being impolite. Chen Jianyuan didn't flinch. He was tired of being bullied by these people. Just as the tension reached a breaking point, Jingyuan's voice echoed from the courtyard. Jianyuan, let them in. Head Ning sneered, glancing at the guard with contempt. At least your family head knows how to behave. The two families marched into the estate, looking like they owned the place. As soon as they crossed the threshold, Jingyuan spoke calmly. Jianyuan, close the gate. The guard's eyes lit up. He slammed the heavy doors shut and stood there like a stone pillar, guarding the exit. The intruders were too focused on the treasure to realize they were being locked in. Brother Chun, it's been a while, Head Su said with a fake smile. We heard the Chin family has been behind closed doors lately. We're all neighbors here. If you're having trouble, we just wanted to see if we could help. We don't need help, Jingyuan replied, cutting straight to the point. And you didn't bring your entire elite force here just to be neighborly. Hetsu laughed. Fine, I like your honesty. A month ago, something happened here. A massive energy surge. You can't deny it. I won't, Jingyuan said. Good. Since we all live in Yingwei City, it's only fair that you don't keep such a treasure to yourself. Why not let us borrow it for a while? We can be one big family. What do you think? He was trying to sound reasonable, but the threat was clear. If we didn't hand it over, they would take it by force. I'm sure you won't refuse us, Head Ning added, his smile not reaching his eyes. In the past, the Chen family would have trembled and negotiated. But today, Jingyuan just looked at them with a strange, calm expression. You two certainly are direct, he said softly. Whatever treasures my family has or doesn't have is none of your business, Jingyuan said, his voice cold and sharp. I'll give you both a piece of advice. Think very carefully before you act. Otherwise, the consequences will be more than you can handle. Head Su burst out laughing. It had only been a month, and he couldn't believe how arrogant the Chen family head had become. I'd really love to see what kind of consequences we can't handle. I'll ask you one last time. Are you handing it over or not? Be smart, and we're allies. Be stubborn, and don't blame us for showing no mercy today. The threat hung in the air, but none of the Chen family members looked worried. They had the confidence that only true power provides. Then let me see it, Jingyuan replied. Show me how you won't be showing mercy. Fine. You asked for it. Head Su shouted, his face reddening. Today we... Da Huang, is that melon sweet? The sudden question cut through the tension like a blunt knife. The Su and Ning family warriors, who were just about to charge, froze mid-step. Everyone turned their heads, looking confused. A melon? We were in the middle of a life-or-death confrontation, and someone was asking about fruit? I was lying back in my rocking chair, completely relaxed. I wasn't looking at the intruders. I was staring at the slice of melon in Da Huang's mouth. The dog looked at me, paused, thought about it for a second, and then shook his head. Look at you, being stingy again, I muttered, rolling my eyes. It's not like I'm going to steal it from you. Who wants to eat a dog's leftovers anyway? Da Huang gave me a look of pure disdain. His eyes seemed to say, You've stolen plenty of my food over the years. And who are you calling a dog? I'm a high-blooded Qilin. Since the dog wasn't sharing, I turned to a nearby family member. Go get me another one. This one isn't sweet enough. I don't want it. The clansman nodded frantically and ran off, returning seconds later with a fresh slice. I took a bite and nodded in satisfaction. Now this is good. Sweet. The clansman looked genuinely honored that I liked the fruit. I looked up and realized everyone was still staring at me. The intruders looked like they didn't know whether to scream or cry. Why are you all standing there? I asked, waving my hand dismissively. Go ahead, keep fighting. I'm just eating a melon. I won't get in your way. The Chen family members didn't think twice about it. To them, I was the ancestor. I'd seen everything the world had to offer, so eating fruit during a massacre was perfectly normal behavior. But the Su and Ning families were baffled. They looked at my young face and my low cultivation level, level 1 of the Qi condensation realm, and couldn't figure out why I was being treated like royalty. Is this the kid who brought the treasure? Hetsu whispered. He convinced himself that must be the reason for my special treatment. He stepped forward, putting on a confident smile. Kid, listen. In Yingwei City, the Su and Ning families are the true powers. If you give that treasure to us instead, I guarantee your life will be 10,000 times better than it is with these losers. The entire Chen family looked at him like he was a complete idiot. The silence was so heavy that Head Su actually started to feel nervous. Did I say something wrong? He whispered to Head Ning. I finished my slice, wiped my mouth, and looked at Jingyuan. Jingyuan, I am here, ancestor. What are your orders? Just get on with it, I said. Stop wasting time talking. If you wait any longer, Da Huang is going to finish all the melons. Da Huang looked up and glared at me. I'd already eaten 3 slices to his 2. Yes, ancestor. Jingyuan bowed deeply. The intruders turned to stone. Ancestor, Jingyuan, the head of the family, just called this teenager ancestor? They thought it was a joke, a ridiculous prank. But Jingyuan wasn't the type to play games. They realized I had to be hiding my true cultivation level. Fear finally started to creep into their eyes. Brother Ning, They're playing tricks, right? Head Su stammered. Head Ning didn't answer. He looked like he wanted to run. Ancestors' orders, Jinyuan announced. Do it. I'll go first. No, me. The Chun family members were itching to test their new strength. The elders moved first, and they didn't hold back. In a single blur of motion, half of the Su and Ning elites were cut down. Head Su and Head Ning stood paralyzed. It had only been a month. How were the Chun elders this fast? How were they this strong? They realized with horror that these elders were now at the peak of the 9th level of the gas refining realm. In this small corner of the world, that was godlike power. Run! Head Su screamed. They turned to flee, but their men were already dead, and the elders were closing in. Just as the two family heads were about to be struck down, a booming voice echoed through the courtyard. Stop! The air vibrated with power. A hidden master? A reinforcement? The Su and Ning heads felt a spark of hope. I didn't even look up from my fruit. Kill them, I said calmly. Jingyuan didn't hesitate. He didn't care who was shouting. He only cared about my command. Wait, I am. The newcomer started to shout, but the elder's blades were already mid-swing. Chen Jingyuan didn't waste a single heartbeat. He stepped directly in front of Head Su and Head Ning. With 2 rapid strikes, his palms slammed into their chests. 2 heavy thuds echoed through the courtyard as the leaders of Yangui City's other great families collapsed. They didn't even have time to scream before their breath left them forever. You? Transcendent Realm? You're actually in the Transcendent Realm. The voice came from the entrance. It was Wu Chengfeng, the governor of Beiyuan County, and Nan Xiangtian, the head of the Nan family. They had traveled here to investigate a massive spiritual energy disturbance from a month ago. They had checked the Su and Ning residences first, only to find everyone had marched on the Qin family. Thinking the Qins were the source of the anomaly, they rushed over, only to witness this slaughter. They were stunned. Why was a family with a Transcendent Realm master hiding in a backwater place like Yangui City? Governor Wu knew more than most. He remembered that the Chun family was once a titan in the Great Zhou Kingdom before their long decline. It looked like the lions were finally waking up. What? Are you two the reinforcements they called for? Zhenyuan asked, his voice cold as ice. No. Please, don't misunderstand. Governor Wu waved his hands frantically. He was the governor, but he only had the power of a 9th-level gas refining practitioner. Facing a transcendent master, he was nothing. Nan Xiangtian just nodded submissively, not daring to speak. Then, their eyes drifted toward me. They had seen it clearly. The man giving the orders wasn't the powerful Zhenyuan, but a young man who looked like he had never touched a sword in his life. So, the governor and the head of the Nan family are visiting. To what do we owe the honor? Zhenyuan smiled thinly. With 5 elders at the peak of the gas refining realm and himself in the transcendent realm, he didn't fear these two at all. Wu Chengfeng started to stammer, but his voice trailed off when he looked at the dog sitting by my feet. De Huang, you're leaving? I asked, noticing the dog turning away with a bored expression. This is boring, De Huang grumbled, his voice clear and human. The acting is terrible. The fruit was okay, but this fight doesn't compare to the duel between Lin Shangliu and Wu Mingdao back in the day. Now that was a show. I felt a pang of nostalgia. That duel, it's been 1,000 years, hasn't it? I wonder if those two are still around. With their talent? They're probably still kicking, De Huang said, yawning. Since you're out for a while, we should go find them and catch up. Good idea, I nodded. Governor Wu and Nan Xiangtian stood frozen, their faces pale. A dog that could talk? And a conversation about events from 1,000 years ago? They looked at me like they were seeing a ghost. Head Chun, these two, Wu Chengfeng whispered, trembling. This is our ancestor, Jinyuan said proudly. And as for De Huang, he isn't just a dog. Is he a rank 5 spirit beast? The governor asked. No, Jinyuan replied. He's the king of dogs. De Huang tripped over his own paws. He turned around, baring his teeth. Damn it, are we still on this? King of dogs? Your whole family are kings of dogs. The two visitors exchanged a confused look. Could a king of dogs really speak? Was it a special bloodline? Whatever the case, they knew they were outmatched. They both bowed so low their foreheads nearly touched the ground. Junior Wu Chengfeng greets the senior. Junior Nan Xiangtian greets the senior. They stood there like obedient grandchildren, waiting for me to speak. I took a bite of fruit and nodded. Go on then. Tell me why you're really here. Senior, Wu Chengfeng said, his voice shaking. The spiritual energy in the entire county was drained recently. As governor, I had to investigate. I traced it to Yangue City. I didn't mean to intrude on your family matters. Please, forgive me. You're just doing your job, I said dismissively. I turned my gaze to my disciple, Qin Yinxian. Yinxian. I'm here, master, he said, stepping forward. Have you ever killed anyone? The question hung in the air. Yinxian hesitated, then shook his head. No, master. Then I have a task for you. Take a few men to the Su and Ning estates. Every man, woman, and child. Leave no one alive. A collective gasp went through the courtyard. Even the governor looked horrified. Ancestor, Yinxian stammered. Their elites are already dead. They aren't a threat anymore. Is this really necessary? Foolish, I said, my voice hardening. If you choose to have enemies, you cannot afford a soft heart. You must pull the grass out by the roots. Never underestimate a hidden danger. To be a master, you need more than talent. You need the will to do what is necessary. Kindness to an enemy is cruelty to yourself. Do you understand? Yinchuan's expression shifted. He took a deep breath and bowed. I understand, master. Go. You have to face this sooner or later. Better now. As Yinxian led a group out of the gates, I turned back to the governor. You're the governor, right? You don't mind me cleaning up my neighborhood, do you? Not at all. Not at all. Wu Qingfeng said quickly. He wasn't an idiot. As long as I wasn't killing him, I could wipe out whoever I wanted. Then you can leave. Senior, the governor said, trying to find a way to stay in our good graces. The Chen family is too powerful for this small city. If you wish, I can arrange a much better territory for you to move to. No need, I replied. We'll be leaving soon anyway. May I ask where? The imperial capital. The governor swallowed hard. The Chens were going back to the heart of the kingdom to reclaim their throne. He gave one last respectful bow and hurried away with Nanxiangtian. Once they were a safe distance from the estate, the governor finally let out a breath he'd been holding. I can't believe the Chen family had an ancestor hidden away. But did you notice? I couldn't sense a single drop of cultivation power from him. He felt ordinary. Nanxiangtian finally dared to speak once we were out of sight. He had been terrified of saying the wrong thing and bringing ruin down on his head. He looked at the governor, his voice trembling as he noted that a figure like me had reached heights they couldn't even touch. He felt that the very sky of the great Zhou kingdom was about to change. The Chun family's return to the capital was going to cause a massive storm. Governor Wu Chengfeng sighed deeply. He wondered if the Qin family was heading back specifically for that matter. He remembered the old rumors of a marriage contract between the Qins and the Lu family. His face paled as the realization hit him. He couldn't believe he had forgotten something so critical. He decided right then that he had to report this to the emperor immediately. Meanwhile, in the imperial capital of the Great Zhou Kingdom, the atmosphere was tense. A full month had passed since Lu Mingyan and Lu Qingfeng returned from their disastrous trip to the Qin estate. They had told the head of the Lu family everything that happened, including their fears about my sudden appearance. The Lu family head sat in his study, frowning. He had been hesitating for weeks, unable to make a decision. Lu Mingyan and Lu Qingfeng were growing anxious. They knew that the longer they waited, the worse it would be for their family. Are you sure this person is the Chun family ancestor? The Lu family head asked, his brow furrowed. Is he really that strong? Did you actually see him fight? Lu Qingfeng shook his head but remained serious. He explained that while I hadn't struck a blow, my presence was overwhelming. He told his leader that I had stood completely unfazed by his own cultivation pressure, which meant my strength had to be far superior. He even mentioned how the spiritual energy of the entire Northern Plain County had been drained when they left, suspecting it was a warning from me. The information was too vague for the Lu family head to process. He worried that I might be in the transcendent realm, or perhaps even higher. But the imperial family was not to be offended either. There was only 1 month left until Lu Mingyan's engagement ceremony with the fifth prince. The royals were already preparing. Canceling now would be like slapping the emperor in the face. Lu Mingyan tried to persuade her father. She argued that since I was a figure who had lived for 10,000 years, they should prepare for the worst. She hoped that if they acted early, the Qin family might show mercy based on their ancient ties. As for the imperial family, she figured they wouldn't dare provoke an old monster like me. The Liu family head looked troubled, but then his expression shifted. A slow smile spread across his face. He started laughing, claiming they had all been wrong. He told them the Qin family was clever, but they had almost been tricked. "Father, what do you mean?" Lu Mingyan asked, confused. He explained his logic. If the Qin family really had such a powerful ancestor, why had there been no movement for a whole month? If I were truly that strong, why would I resort to warning them with tricks instead of just wiping them out? He concluded that my only goal was to make them afraid so they would cancel the engagement themselves. If they fell for it, the Liu family would face the emperor's wrath without the Qins having to lift a finger. It was a brilliant, bloodless scheme. "But father," Liu Chengfeng interrupted, "that ancestor definitely has power." He was too calm in the face of my pressure. The Liu family head sneered. He admitted I probably had some strength, but not enough to fight the entire kingdom. He believed that once Mingyan married the fifth prince, the Liu family and the royals would be one. At that point, the Qins would be powerless. He mocked them for being naive and boasted that such a small trick couldn't fool his eyes. Lu Mingyan and Liu Chengfeng finally relaxed. They felt foolish for almost being deceived by the devious Qin family. Mingyan was furious, feeling like her future had been toyed with. She demanded they teach the Qins a lesson, especially since the marriage contract was still in our hands. Her father told her not to worry. He reminded her that the fifth prince's uncle was the third elder of the Azure sect, a man of immense power. The Great Zhou royalty and the Azure sect were tightly linked, with the sect being the stronger of the two. If the prince's uncle stepped in, the Qin family wouldn't be able to stir up any trouble. He told her to go to the fifth prince and settle this hidden threat once and for all. While the Liu family was plotting, we weren't sitting idle. We had already left Yingwei City. As we traveled, we drew stares everywhere we went. People stopped in the streets, rubbing their eyes, wondering if they were dreaming. "Look at that. Am I seeing things?" one villager shouted. "A dog is riding a horse." "I can't even afford a horse, and that dog has his own," another grumbled. I had left 3 days ago with Chun Yunxian and De Huang. The reason we were the center of attention was simple. De Huang insisted on riding a horse like a human. It was a sight no one had ever seen. At first, Yunxian was embarrassed by the constant whispering and pointing, but he eventually got used to it. "Yunxian, are we still in the northern plain county?" I asked, looking at the horizon. "Ancestor, I haven't traveled much, but based on our pace, I think we are," he replied. I sighed. 3 days, and we were still in the same county. We were moving way too slowly. I looked over at the big yellow dog sitting upright in his saddle. "De Huang, this is your fault. If you didn't insist on riding, we'd be much faster." De Huang gave me a look of pure disdain. His voice echoed in my head through a mental transmission. "So what? I've lived a long time. Why can't I enjoy myself? You get to ride me when I'm in my true form, but I can't ride a horse. What's the rush? You've got a long life ahead of you. Stop acting like you're in a hurry to be reborn." I laughed helplessly. The dog had been pretty cranky lately. I started wondering if I should find him a female dog to help him blow off some steam. I figured he'd probably thank me for it. The thought made me smirk darkly. Yunxian looked at me, completely baffled by my expression, while De Huang suddenly looked very, very suspicious. "This bastard is up to no good. That's him. He's a total fraud. Smash his stall. Tear it down." The sudden shouting caught my attention. I looked over and saw a group of burly men surrounding a small fortune-telling stall. They looked furious, their faces red with rage. "Wait, wait," the old fortune-teller cried out, trying to stop them. "Tell me, what did I say that was wrong?" One of the thugs stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. 7 days ago, you told me I was facing a blood-red disaster. You said a great catastrophe was coming for me. Is that right?" "Yes," the old man nodded calmly. "That is what I said." "And you told me I had to leave this place and not return for 7 days." "Right. Correct," the old man replied. The thug let out a roar of laughter that turned into a snarl. "Well, guess what? I didn't leave. I stayed right here for all 7 days. Where's my disaster? Where's my catastrophe? You're nothing but a liar." The crowd that had gathered started whispering and pointing. I listened to their chatter. Most of them were calling the old man a scammer, saying he'd been at this corner for months, tricking innocent people. They wanted to see him beaten. The old man didn't look scared. In fact, he looked almost bored. I told you, you have a blood-red disaster. You just wouldn't listen. The thug raised his fist to strike, but before he could land a blow, a shadow flickered. Thud, thud, thud. In a flash, the thugs were flying through the air, crashing into the dirt several feet away. The crowd gasped. They didn't even see who hit them. Like I said, the old man chuckled, a mischievous glint in his eye. Blood-red disaster. You just didn't listen. The lead thug groaned, clutching his chest as he looked up at the young man who had appeared out of nowhere. It was Chun Yinxian. I had sent him in to intervene. Who are you? The thug spat. Why are you helping this fake? Yinxian stood tall, his expression cold. This is someone you can't touch. Leave. Now. Can't touch? You think I'm scared? The thug wiped blood from his lip. My brother-in-law is a guard for the Nan family. You're on Nan territory. If you mess with me, you're dead. The Nan family? Yinxian hesitated for a second. He hadn't realized we were in their domain yet. The thug took his hesitation for fear. That's right. You don't even know who they are, do you? Get lost. He lunged at Yinxian, but my disciple didn't even blink. He delivered a swift kick to the man's ribs, sending him tumbling back into the dust. The thug coughed up a spray of bright red blood. Blood-red disaster. The old man sighed, shaking his head. It really is a blood-red disaster. The thug looked horrified. Impossible. The 7 days are up. Actually, the old man said, checking the position of the sun. You came to see me in the afternoon 7 days ago. You're still an hour short of the full week. If you hadn't come back early, this wouldn't have happened. I told you, I'm not a liar. You played me. The thug screamed, struggling to stand. You're dead. Just you wait. Yinxian remembered the lesson I had taught him. Always pull the grass out by the roots. If a man threatens your life, you don't give him a second chance. He stepped forward, his intent clear. See, the old man shouted to the retreating crowd. A great catastrophe. I told you. Anyone else want a reading? The crowd vanished in seconds. No one wanted a piece of that kind of fortune. The old man sighed, looking disappointed. People just don't understand me. Thank you, young hero. I can see you have an extraordinary destiny. Perhaps I could. No need, Yinxian interrupted. I was just following orders. The old man's eyes shifted, landing on me as I stood a few paces away. He smiled, a wide, knowing grin, and walked over. Thank you for the help, young friend. I see you have an extraordinary destiny. Perhaps I could. Cut the act, I said, a smirk playing on my lips. It's been a long time. How are you not dead yet? The old man stopped mid-sentence. His fake, mystic persona dropped instantly, replaced by a look of genuine surprise and amusement. Look who's talking. You're still kicking too, aren't you? Yinxian looked back and forth between us, completely stunned. Ancestor, you know this man? This isn't the place to talk, I said. Let's find somewhere private. We headed to a nearby tavern and took a private room upstairs. As soon as the door closed, the old man let out a long breath. It's been over 3,000 years since we last met, he said, looking at me and then at De Huang. Brother Chun, Brother De Huang. You both look exactly the same. It feels like a lifetime ago. Yinxian was reeling. He knew I was old, but he never expected this raggedy old street performer to be an ancient figure too. Senior, Yinxian asked, if you are a friend of my ancestor, you must be a powerful master. Why did you let those thugs push you around? I chuckled. Yinxian, you don't know who this is. This is Wang Tianji, the third-generation sect master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion. He's incredibly powerful, but he's done so many shady things in his life that he's constantly being hit by karma. Karma? Yinxian asked. Wang Tianji laughed bitterly. My lineage tries to peek into the secrets of heaven. There's a price for that. Every 1,000 years, our bodies fail us. Our appearance ages, and our cultivation vanishes completely for 10 years. During that time, we're as weak as ordinary mortals. It's our most dangerous period. I leaned back, crossing my arms. If you know you're in your danger period, why are you all the way out here in the Great Zhou Kingdom? With your current strength, you can't even walk very far. Walking from the Heavenly Secret Pavilion to the Great Zhou Kingdom would take an ordinary person 10 years. The distance was staggering. If Wang Tianji had his cultivation, it would be nothing, but he claimed to be powerless. How did he get here? And more importantly, why? Something felt wrong. I stared at him, my mind racing back to our first meeting thousands of years ago. Back then, he was also in his weakened state, his power gone and his face aged. But the math didn't add up. Wait, I said, narrowing my eyes. According to the cycle, your cultivation shouldn't vanish for another 300 years. Why has it happened early? Wang Tianji let out a helpless, bitter laugh. About a year ago, I had a sudden premonition. I performed a divination and found the secrets of heaven to be in total chaos. I knew something massive was coming. Then, I sensed an old friend would appear in this tiny great Zhou kingdom. He looked at me with a tired smile. I couldn't calculate exactly who it was, but I don't have many old friends left. If someone appeared here whom I couldn't read at all, it had to be you. Even back then, your life was a blur I could never pierce. So, I rushed here before my power faded. I took a gamble that we'd meet again. He shifted his gaze to the boy sitting next to me. But I didn't expect your descendant to be just like you. Is everyone in the Chen family a monster? Wang Tianji looked calm, but I could see the shock in his eyes. It was one thing for me to be an anomaly, but for young Chen Yunxian to also possess a destiny so great that even a sect master couldn't calculate it? That was unheard of. Yunxian looked confused, clearly not expecting the conversation to turn toward him. The people of my Chen family are never ordinary, I said coolly. I leaned forward, my eyes locking onto Wang Tianji's. So, you pried too deep into the heavens, and the backlash hit you early. Is that it? And you traveled all this way just to catch up on old times? I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. I don't think it's that simple. Wang Tianji laughed and shook his head. You caught me. Or maybe I'm just getting old and wanted to see a familiar face. I can't see what's coming, so I decided to stop worrying about it. Fine, I said. Today we drink. No business. The food arrived, and we spent the next hour laughing and swapping stories like old friends. We didn't mention the fate of the world or hidden agendas again. Yunxian sat quietly, pouring our wine and watching us with wide eyes. I could tell he was impressed that I knew someone of this stature. Finally, Wang Tianji patted his stomach and stood up. That was the most fun I've had in years. It was worth the trip. But all good things must end. It's time for me to go. I looked at him calmly. Leaving already? It's time, he replied. I nodded and didn't try to stop him. Once he disappeared out the door, Yunxian turned to me, his face full of concern. Ancestor, Senior Wang has no cultivation right now. Won't he be in danger traveling alone? He won't, I said. He's a man who learns from his mistakes. He's the master of the heavenly secret pavilion. Do you really think he'd travel without protection? Yunxian blinked. You mean, he has guards in the shadows? Then why did you have me step in earlier? I was just playing along with his little act, I said. I looked at my disciple. Tell me, what do you think of Wang Tianji? Yunxian thought for a long moment. I can't read him, Ancestor. I don't know him well enough to judge. But since he's your friend, he can't be a bad person, right? I chuckled, which made Yunxian nervous. A man who spends his life peeking at heaven's secrets is never simple, I told him. Don't believe for a second he came here just to chat. He isn't a villain, but he isn't a saint either. Yunxian looked lost. He had seen us laughing and drinking like brothers. He couldn't understand why I was suddenly being so cynical. Was Wang Tianji plotting something? I watched Yunxian as he tried to piece it all together. Eventually, he spoke up. Ancestor, he told the truth about the chaos in the heavens and about finding you. But he's hiding what he actually knows about the big event. He's holding back. Not bad, I said, nodding. Your instincts are sharpening. Then why didn't we force the truth out of him while he's weak? Yunxian asked, his voice dropping. You think he's actually weak? I smiled. Did you notice his aura? The moment he stepped out of this tavern, it vanished completely. A truly powerless man can't mask his presence like that. He lied about his condition. Yunxian gasped. He hadn't noticed a thing. He has deep schemes, I continued, but he won't move against us. Why not? Because he's afraid, I said simply. Even though we were friends, I knew Wang Tianji felt an instinctive dread whenever he looked at me. It was a fear he couldn't even explain to himself. Miles away, Wang Tianji stood on a mountain path. His aged face had smoothed out, returning to its true, youthful appearance. His power hummed beneath his skin, vibrant and strong. A group of men in robes knelt before him. "Greetings, sect master. Return to the pavilion," Wang Tianji ordered, his voice cold and commanding. "Keep a close eye on Chun Yunxian. He is a rising star with a limitless future. The more we know about him, the better." "Understood," one of the men said. "And what about Qin Chang'an?" Wang Tianji frowned. "He had come to the Great Zhou Kingdom to test me, to see if he could finally figure me out. But just like 3,000 years ago, he saw nothing. His 3 millennia of cultivation meant nothing in my presence. Chun Yunxian will be a major player in the coming storms," Wang Tianji muttered to himself. "But Qin Chang'an, what role does he play in this world? He is the center of it all, yet he stands outside of it." He knew the world was falling into chaos. Every major sect would be dragged into the fire. If he could just understand my secret, his pavilion would rise above them all. But for now, I remained the one secret he could never unlock. Wang Tianji stood there, his mind racing. He was trying to figure out exactly what role I played in this grand scheme. Was I a player on the board, or was I the one who would break the game entirely? Dealing with me was a puzzle he couldn't solve, and it frustrated him. The members of the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets watched their leader in silence. They were confused. Their organization held files on every powerhouse in the world, yet they had absolutely nothing on a man named Qin Chang'an. It was as if I didn't exist in the records of history. "Sect Master," one of the members whispered, "since you can't see through him, why don't we?" Before he could finish his sentence, the air turned heavy. A terrifying pressure descended from the sky, like the world was collapsing. It was suffocating. Wang Tianji's face went pale. He circulated every drop of his cultivation to resist, but it was useless. The pressure slammed them down. Their knees hit the ground so hard they cracked the stone, leaving a massive crater. "Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets." A melodic voice drifted through the air. It was beautiful, but it carried a bone-chilling frost. "What is Wang Beichuan to you?" Wang Tianji trembled. He hadn't even sensed anyone approaching. He struggled to lift his head, his muscles screaming under the weight of the aura. A few yards away, a woman stood in a flowing purple dress. A thin veil covered her face, but no matter how hard Wang Tianji looked, her features remained a blur. "It was my master, Mu Yunyao. He is the ancestor of my family," Wang Tianji stammered, his voice shaking. "Humph. For the sake of that brat Beichuan, I'll let you live today," she said coldly. "But listen well. I don't care who you are or what you want. Do not point your schemes at Qin Chang'an. If you do, your entire family will pay the price. My person is not someone you get to calculate." Wang Tianji broke into a cold sweat. He knew I was mysterious and strong, but he never expected a powerhouse like this to be standing right behind me. My person, he wondered. Was she my woman? Was I using her to warn him away from my secrets? "Senior, please rest assured," Wang Tianji said quickly. "Brother Chun and I are old friends. I would never plot against him." "I should hope not," she replied. Her tone shifted, becoming sharp and demanding. "Tell me, since you've appeared, what has your pavilion discovered?" Wang Tianji swallowed hard. "I don't know if Senior has heard. The 3 rankings of heaven, earth, and man have reappeared in the world." Mu Yunyao's brow furrowed. "The 3 rankings? When?" "My team had been calculating it for a while," Wang Tianji explained. "But a month ago, we received confirmation. They have truly returned. You must know what that means." Mu Yunyao knew exactly what it meant. She had lived through the last time the rankings appeared, but that was tens of thousands of years ago. "Why now?" "What was the exact date they appeared?" she asked. "June the 5th, Wang Tianji replied. Mu Yunyao felt a jolt in her heart. June 5th, that was the exact moment I had absorbed the fetal bead and finally gained the ability to cultivate. The rankings had strict rules, especially regarding age. I shouldn't have fit the criteria, yet the timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. She knew the world was about to change. Thousands of years ago, the rise of the current top sects was fueled by the rewards from those rankings. To keep their power, those sects would do anything to stop others from rising. War was coming. The 3 rankings were manifestations of the heavenly Tao's will. Those who made the list received gifts from the heavens, treasures, insights, and power that every cultivator craved. The ranking of man would open first. It was for those under 30 years old, testing their speed, strength, and talent. It was a brutal selection process. People would kill to clear the path for their own disciples. Mu Yunyao had been a beneficiary of the rankings once, but she preferred her freedom. In all these years, she had only ever taken me as her disciple. Senior, Wang Tianji continued. This time, things seemed different. Mu Yunyao nodded slowly. She understood. Usually, when the rankings appeared, the heavenly Tao announced it to the entire world. Everyone could see it. But this time, only the big sects had caught wind of it through secret intelligence. The ranking of man remained closed. Where are they now? She asked. Still at Cloud Mist Peak? Yes, Wang Tianji confirmed. The peak is currently shrouded in a massive energy field. No one can get close, let alone climb to the top. From a distance, you can see 3 different colored lights flashing at the summit. Mu Yunyao didn't say another word. She glanced at him once, then vanished into thin air. Once she was gone, Wang Tianji and his men finally let out the breath they had been holding. They collapsed, gasping for air. Sect Master. Who was that? One of them asked, trembling. Wang Tianji gave a bitter laugh. He didn't know her name, but anyone who called his ancestor a brat was beyond his league. Don't ask about her, he warned, his eyes full of lingering fear. People like that are not for us to discuss. Be careful, or you'll bring a fire down on us that will burn everything to ash. Regardless of who that woman was, she was way out of our league. Wang Tianji stood there, looking at the spot where she had vanished. He turned to his men with a look of pure dread. He told them that from this day forward, whether it was me, Chen Chang'an, or my disciple Chun Yunxian, the Heavenly Mystery Pavilion would treat us as friends, not enemies. He ordered them to watch Yunxian closely and offer help whenever possible. His men nodded, still trembling. They knew a warning like that wasn't to be taken lightly. On my end, I didn't plan on lingering. Our destination was the capital, and we weren't out here for a sightseeing tour. As we walked, I looked over at Chen Yunxian. I asked him if he had set a goal for himself. We were supposed to reach the capital within a month. He looked at me, confused, asking if I meant his cultivation level. I told him straight. Reaching the first level of the Qi gathering realm was a start, but it wasn't much. There were plenty of kids his age out there who were stronger and faster. If he didn't push himself, he'd never stand out in a crowd. He took my words to heart, bowing his head in respect. Then, I gave him his mission. Before we set foot in the capital, he had to reach at least the 9th level of the Qi gathering realm. I saw the flash of nerves in his eyes. Going from the 1st level to the 9th, or even the transcendent realm, in just 30 days sounded impossible. But then, the nervousness turned into fire. He looked at me with total determination and promised he would do it. I smiled. The rest of this journey would be his stage to perform. 10 days later, back in Yangui City, the rest of the Chen family was ready to move. Chen Jingyuan stood before them, his voice thick with emotion. He told them that after today, the Chen family would no longer be a small, forgotten name in a backwater town. We were heading to the capital to reclaim our throne as the #1 family in the land. He reminded them that the Great Zhou Kingdom was just the starting point. They couldn't afford to let me down. Following my instructions, Jingyuan had stayed behind for 10 extra days. He hadn't wasted a single second. He had pushed himself and the clansmen to their absolute limits, using the resources I left them to skyrocket their strength. Just as they were walking out of the front gates, a group of 8 people blocked their path. One of them laughed, saying they had arrived just in time before the Chen family escaped. Jingyuan wasn't surprised. He knew people would come. In fact, he'd been waiting for them. The strangers were arrogant. They complained about having to travel so far just to wipe out a tiny family like ours. They started arguing over who got to kill the most of us, treating my descendants like cattle for the slaughter. These were men from the Shangqing sect, sent by the 5th prince's uncle. To a man like the uncle, the Chen family wasn't even worth his personal attention. He figured 8 disciples would be more than enough to handle a bunch of refugees. Jingyuan looked at them with cold eyes. He asked if they really thought no one in the Great Zhou Kingdom dared to touch the Shangqing sect. The leader of the group sneered. He told Jingyuan that they were the law here, and he didn't think the Chen family had the guts to fight back. Jingyuan didn't bother arguing. He drew his long blade and swung. A massive wave of energy exploded from the steel, rushing toward the group like a tidal wave. The arrogance on their faces turned to pure horror in an instant. They realized too late that Jingyuan wasn't a weakling. He was in the transcendent realm. With one single strike, the screams of the 8 disciples were cut short. They were wiped out before they could even draw their weapons. Jingyuan sheathed his blade, disappointed. The Shanqing sect really had underestimated us. Thanks to the time I gave him, he had already reached the 5th level of the transcendent realm. He looked toward the horizon, wondering how far Yunxian and I had traveled. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, the king of Great Zhou summoned the 5th prince. The prince was confused. He had been busy preparing for his engagement to Lu Mingyan. He wondered if his father wanted to discuss the wedding. The king looked at him and brought up the Qin family. He asked if the prince knew about the old history between the Qins and the Lius. The prince's heart skipped a beat, but he tried to play it cool. He told his father he had already handled it. He claimed Lu Mingyan was a genius and that they were in love. Whatever old contract existed was ancient history and meant nothing now. He begged his father not to let this ruin his impression of his future bride. The king didn't say a word. He just frowned and handed over a letter from Wu Qingfeng, the governor of Beiyuan County. The prince read it and actually started laughing. He told his father it was just a trick by the Qin family. He called me, the ancestor, a complete joke. He boasted that he'd already sent his uncle's men to exterminate the family and that they were probably all dead by now. The king didn't laugh. He stared at his son with a look of intense gravity. He asked the prince if he had noticed the other piece of information hidden in that report. The king looked at his son and asked a single, chilling question. What about the dog? The 5th prince blinked, looking completely lost. The dog? What dog? A talking dog, the king roared, finally losing his temper. Are your eyes just for show? How could you ignore such a massive detail in the report? The prince froze. His mind went blank under his father's fury. A talking dog? Father. Then it hit him. His heart skipped a beat. A beast that could speak human language had to be at least a rank 5 spirit beast. A single rank 5 beast was enough to level the entire Great Zhou kingdom. If there was something even stronger than that protecting the Qin family, the consequences were unthinkable. Why didn't Lu Mingyan tell me about this? The prince muttered, sweat beaded on his forehead. He looked up at the king, his voice trembling. Father, is this news actually true? Mingyan never mentioned a word of this to me. The king sighed. Governor Wu wouldn't dare lie to me. The dog exists. Either your precious fiancée didn't know, or she's hiding it from you on purpose. She didn't know, the prince said instantly, trying to sound certain. She definitely didn't know. She would never deceive me. The king looked at his son and felt a wave of exhaustion. The 5th prince was his most talented son, the one he had the highest hopes for. But ever since the boy met Lu Mingyan, it was like his brain had stopped working. Love had made him a fool. Fine, the king said. Whether she knew or not doesn't matter now. How do you plan to handle this? The prince frowned, his mind finally shifting back into a tactical gear. His uncle's men from the Shanqing sect were already on their way to the Qin family. In the best-case scenario, the Qins were already dead. In the worst case, the mission failed, and the Qin family was now a cornered tiger. Father, we need 2 plans, the prince said after a long silence. First, we prepare for peace. We can blame everything on my uncle. We'll claim we knew nothing about his attack to soothe the Qin family's anger. But second, if they refuse to back down, we can't just sit and wait for death. We fight until the end. The king nodded, finally showing a hint of a smile. This was the son he recognized, cold and calculated. Your uncle adores you. Are you really willing to sacrifice him to save your own skin? I am a member of the royal family, the prince replied, his voice hardening. The throne comes first. If I have to sacrifice my uncle to protect our legacy, I will. I'm sure he would understand. To achieve great things, one must know what to give up. Good, the king said. You understand sacrifice. But your plan is still a bit naive. The prince looked confused. What do you mean, father? The Shanqing sect is our greatest ally, the king explained. Your uncle is only the 3rd elder, but your grandfather is one of the supreme elders. His power rivals our own family's ancestor. We cannot simply throw your uncle away. Besides, I've invited the great families to your engagement feast. The prince tilted his head. He was young, and didn't know much about these great families beyond whispers. The great families? I thought the Shangqing sect was our backbone. That's a lie we tell the public, the king said, his voice dropping to a low whisper. In the Northern Territory, the great families are the true kings. They treat kingdoms like ours as pieces on a chessboard. They use our wars to settle their small disputes so they don't have to lose their own men. They are the ones who truly control the board. So, we're just pawns? The prince asked, his pride stinging. What else would we be? The king countered. With a snap of their fingers, they could replace the great Zhou royalty tomorrow. Now, stop worrying about things you can't change. Move our troops toward the capital. We need to be ready for anything. Yes, father. The day of the engagement arrived. The capital was buzzing. I walked through the crowded streets, listening to the gossip. People were calling it the event of the century. They said the king was treating this engagement like his own wedding because the fifth prince was the chosen heir. They talked about how lucky the Liu family was to climb so high. In a small tavern, I sat quietly, listening to the chatter. Everyone was talking about the supreme elders of the Shangqing sect arriving in person. They thought the Liu family was about to become the most powerful clan in the kingdom. Are you afraid? I asked, looking over at Chen Yinxian. Not at all, he said, shaking his head with a calm smile. He had changed so much in such a short time. The journey had hardened him, turning his youthful arrogance into a steady, quiet confidence. He finally understood that he couldn't grow if he stayed hidden in our small home city. Get some rest tonight, I told him. Tomorrow is your stage. You're the main character. Yes, ancestor, he replied. Once I was alone in my room, I turned to my dog, De Huang. Can you sense the fetal bead? I asked. De Huang looked at me, his eyes full of curiosity. Didn't you see it back at the Qin house? You have a closer connection to it than I do. Can't you feel it? I frowned. It was strange. Back at the house, I didn't feel a thing until the wooden box was actually opened. Something was blocking my connection to the very thing that was supposed to be a part of me. I couldn't feel the presence of the fetal bead at all. I had merged with it once before, so there should have been a connection, but the sensation was faint. Maybe it was the distance. With your strength, can you sense its aura? I asked Chinchongan. Sense my foot, De Huang snapped, looking annoyed. That bead has no aura fluctuations at all. Even if your master showed up, he wouldn't find it. I frowned. How is that possible? Everything in this world has its own unique breath, its own energy signature. Why was the fetal bead a void? When you were back at the Qin house, did you notice anything? I pressed. Nothing, the dog replied. You're not normal, so it's no surprise that things connected to you aren't normal either. You're on your own with this one. I let out a helpless sigh. I had hoped De Huang could sniff it out. If it was hidden in the capital or held by the royal family, I could have had him steal it. Now, it looked like I'd have to confront the royals directly to find its whereabouts. The night passed in silence. The next day was the official engagement ceremony for the fifth prince and Lu Mingyan. The king of the great Zhou kingdom had gone all out, holding the event right inside the royal palace. Congratulations, clan leader Lu. A great day for your family, truly. Lu Mingyan's father beamed, his face flushed with pride as he greeted the guests. This was even bigger than he had imagined. The scale of the event brought immense prestige to the Lu family. Master, Lu Qingfeng whispered, leaning in close to the clan leader. Our men just returned from Yingui City. The Qin family has vanished. Do you think the fifth prince's uncle already finished them off? The clan leader's brow furrowed. Vanished? That's not exactly the news I wanted. He glanced at the king nearby, wanting to ask, but decided it wasn't the right time. He spotted the third elder of the Shangqing sect, the fifth prince's uncle, standing nearby. He approached him with a respectful smile. Are you the third elder? I am Lu Mingyan's father. The third elder looked at him and smiled thinly. Ah, the father-in-law. We're family now, no need for such formalities. What's on your mind? He paused, then added, Is it about the Qin family? Yes, Lu Mingyan's father admitted. My men say they've disappeared. The third elder chuckled. Then my disciples must have succeeded. Don't worry. A tiny family like the Qins isn't worth a second thought. The Lu clan leader finally relaxed. If the third elder said they were dead, they were dead. He returned to his seat, his smile brighter than ever. The hour has arrived, a eunuch shouted. The fifth prince looked at Lu Mingyan with tender eyes. She looked back, radiating happiness. They held hands and walked slowly onto the ceremonial stage. A perfect match, someone whispered. The prince is so noble, and the Lu girl is like a goddess from the heavens. Truly a match made in heaven. The guests vied with each other to shout the loudest praises, hoping the royals would notice their loyalty. Mingyan, the prince said, his voice dripping with affection. Trust me, I will make you the happiest woman in the world. I'll give you everything you desire, even my life. I believe you, she replied softly. In all the world, you are the only one who truly cares for me. She knew exactly what to say to wrap him around her finger. The prince looked like he was about to burst with joy. Your Highness, the eunuch interrupted with a smirk. Perhaps we should get to the official business first? Right, the prince laughed. Business first. Mingyan, from today on, you are my official fiancé. No one can ever take you from me. You belong only to me. I will always be yours, she promised, gazing into his eyes. The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. Some were moved, others were just playing along, but the atmosphere reached a fever pitch. In that case, a voice rang out, cutting through the cheers like a cold blade. How could our Qin family let you down? We've prepared a special gift just for this moment. The palace went dead silent. Who would dare speak like that here? The Qin family? Which Qin family? People looked around, confused. But the Lu family members froze. They knew that voice. The clan leader looked at the third elder, whose face had turned pale with shock. Even the king's calm expression twitched. Presumptuous, the head eunuch screamed. Who dares disrupt this ceremony? Do you know where you are? If I didn't come, the voice continued, how could the eldest daughter of the Lu family regain her purity and her freedom? A massive stir went through the crowd. Purity? That word carried a lot of weight. Was there a scandal? Had she already been with someone else? Nonsense. Show yourself, the fifth prince roared, his face red with fury. True or not, the rumor would stain them forever. Chun Yunshuan's figure blurred, moving through the crowd until he stood right in front of the stage. The guests gasped. He was so young. Was he on a suicide mission? Chun Yunxian, Lu Mingyan hissed, her eyes burning with hatred. How dare you insult me? Insult you? Chun Yunxian looked at her coldly. Did I say something wrong? The contract between your Lu family and my Chun family still stands. You haven't forgotten so quickly, have you? Chun Yunxian asked, his voice dripping with disdain. Lu Mingyan, as the daughter of the clan leader, you were contracted to marry into my Qin family. Now, here you are, getting engaged to another man. What do you call that? Unfaithful? Treacherous? He let out a cold, sharp laugh. If that wasn't the case, why did you crawl to my family's doorstep the other day, begging for the contract back? The crowd erupted into whispers. The name, Qin family, started circulating through the palace like a wildfire. The Qin family? Oh, wait, I remember now. Someone whispered nearby. The Lu family used to be their subordinates. They signed a pact generations ago to stay close. Every eldest daughter of the Lu family had to marry a Qin. But hasn't the Qin family been in ruins for years? Another voice added. This kid is suicidal. Showing up here to reclaim a dead contract? He's going to bring total destruction on his house. To the guests, Qin Yunxian was just a hot-headed youth who didn't know the height of the heavens. He was venting his anger, sure, but at what cost? Could the fallen Qin family actually handle the fallout of insulting the royal family? Ha! The king of the great Zhou kingdom suddenly laughed. His face was a mask. No one could tell if he was amused or murderous. So the Qin family still has such interesting young men. Tell me, what is your name? Qin Yunxian, my disciple replied, standing tall. And are you here alone? The king asked, his eyes narrowing. He was testing the waters. My family had been missing for weeks, and even his best spies hadn't found us. He was looking for me, the legendary ancestor, and the talking dog he'd heard so much about. Qin Yunxian didn't flinch. His gaze was steady. I'm just here to deliver a gift. One person is enough. And what is this gift? The king leaned forward. That old marriage contract. Of course not. Qin Yunxian smiled. I'm here to deliver a letter of divorce. The palace went stone-cold silent. People looked at him like he had grown a second head. He was insane. If he had returned the contract, the royals might have let him live out of pity. But a divorce letter? On the day of the prince's engagement? He was asking for death. What did you say? Lu Mingyan shrieked, her face contorting. A divorce letter? We were never married. You have no right. We don't have a wedding date, but the contract is real, Chen Yinxian countered. You're only angry because I'm humiliating you in public. You? I'll kill you, she hissed. Those who insult others should expect to be insulted back, Chen Yinxian said, his voice rising. Your family broke their word. You proved yourself to be a woman without virtue. The Chen family doesn't want you. We wouldn't take you even if you begged. This letter is my gift to the happy couple. It's the thought that counts, right? You're dead. The fifth prince couldn't take it anymore. He leaped from the stage, his energy exploding as he lunged toward Chen Yinxian. You? Chen Yinxian didn't even blink. You're not worthy to trade blows with me. With a casual flick of his wrist, he threw a single punch. A massive shockwave hit the prince square in the chest, sending him flying backward across the hall. The guests gasped in horror. The fifth prince was at the 9th level of the Qi condensation realm. He was one of the top geniuses in the kingdom. To be swatted away like a fly by someone his own age? It was impossible. What is his cultivation level? An elder muttered. I can't see through it. Me neither. I'm in the true Qi realm, and he looks like a void to me. Is he? Is he in the spirit realm at 16? The shock only deepened. This wasn't just a brave kid, this was a monster. First level of the spirit realm? A voice boomed from the high seats. It was Wei Tianfeng, and Supreme Elder of the Rising Sun sect and the prince's grandfather. He looked at Chen Yinxian with intense focus. Boy, how old are you? 16, Chen Yinxian replied. 16? A spirit realm master at 16? The room felt like it was spinning. Lu Qingfeng, Lu Mingyan's father, felt his heart skip a beat. 2 months ago, when he visited the Chen house, the boy was barely at the Qi condensation level. He had jumped an entire major realm in 2 months. It was a miracle. It was terrifying. A once-in-a-thousand-years talent, people whispered. But he showed his hand too early. The royal family will never let a threat like him grow. The royal family had plenty of spirit realm masters. More importantly, the 2 supreme elders present were at the peak of the 9th level. Chen Yinxian was a tiger cub, but he was surrounded by lions. Chen Yinxian, you are impressive, Wei Tianfeng said, his voice surprisingly calm. This grudge is just between you and the Lu family. It doesn't have to end in blood. If you join the Rising Sun sect and become my disciple, I will overlook everything that happened today. What do you say? The crowd was stunned. Instead of execution, they were offering a recruitment? He's right, added Wu Yuan, the other supreme elder and an ancestor of the royal family. Join us, and the royal family will forget this insult. Grandpa, ancestor, the 5th prince yelled, picking himself up from the floor. He hit me. You're going to recruit him. Shut up, the king snapped, glaring at his son. If you want to achieve greatness, you don't sweat the small stuff. The king turned his gaze toward the Lu family leader, a thin smile on his lips, waiting to see how the pieces would fall. The king of the Great Zhou looked at the head of the Lu family, a thin smile playing on his lips. He asked if the Lu family would mind this change of plans, assuring them that the engagement wouldn't be affected. The Lu family head didn't dare to argue. He bowed low, trembling, and said everything was up to the king. He was a smart man. He knew when to fold. Now, every eye in the palace was fixed on my disciple, Chen Yinxian. The air was thick with anticipation. They were waiting for him to bow, to accept the offer, to save his own life. Yinxian looked at the powerful men sitting high above him. He didn't flinch. Instead, he let out a cold, sharp laugh. He told them flat out that they weren't worthy of making him bow. His path of cultivation was one of absolute dominance. Why would he ever lower his head to a tiny, insignificant sect like the Rising Sun? The atmosphere shifted instantly. Wei Tianfeng and Wu Yuan looked like they had been slapped. In this kingdom, they were the peak. No one talked to them like that. Wei Tianfeng's face turned icy. He asked if Yinxian was choosing the hard way. I decide what I drink, Yinxian snapped back. You don't have the qualifications to offer me anything. It was a bold move. Too bold, maybe. Wei Tianfeng lost his patience. He was a supreme elder, a man of status, yet he decided to strike down a junior personally. The crowd was shocked, but nobody dared to speak up. Yinxian wasn't scared. He was actually excited. He wanted to test the results of the training I had given him. Seeing his opponent charge, he let out a burst of golden light that wrapped around his body like armor. He turned into a golden streak, meeting the elder head-on. The collision was deafening. A massive boom echoed through the hall. To everyone's horror, Wei Tianfeng, a master at the peak of the 9th level, was forced back 10 meters by a single punch. The room went silent. A chi condensation brat had just pushed back a legend. Yinxian looked at his fist, a grin spreading across his face. He realized I was right. Cultivation levels were important, but the quality of the techniques and arts I gave him changed the entire game. Even at the first level of the spirit realm, he could stand his ground against the peak. He didn't stop there. He pointed a finger at Wu Yuan, the other supreme elder. "You," he shouted. "Join him. Both of you come at me at once." The crowd thought he had lost his mind. 1-on-2? It was insanity. Wei Tianfeng realized he had been too careless. He stopped holding back and lunged forward again, his face dark with rage. Wu Yuan didn't hesitate either. He joined the fray. The three of them became a blur of motion. Yinxian was holding his own, trading blows with two of the strongest men in the kingdom. The fifth prince watched, his world crumbling. The Liu family was filled with instant regret. They realized the Qin family hadn't just returned. They had exploded back into power. Lu Mingyan stared at Yinxian, her eyes changing. She saw a true chosen one, a man who could give her everything she ever wanted. The king saw the danger. He quietly ordered his guards to mobilize every soldier near the capital. He wanted the palace surrounded. If the elders couldn't kill him, 10,000 arrows would. He couldn't let Yinxian leave this palace alive. Suddenly, a new voice drifted through the hall. Interesting. Truly interesting. A young man walked in, looking relaxed. The king's face lit up with relief. He called him Master Chun. This was Chun Yushu from the Northern Territory Qin family, the real power behind the Great Zhou throne. Yushu looked at the fight with curiosity. He was a genius himself, but seeing someone younger than him fighting two peak masters made him feel a sting of jealousy. He asked the old man behind him, Uncle Liu, if the boy would win. Uncle Liu shook his head. He noted that while Yunxuan's techniques were top tier, he lacked experience. He predicted that as the fight dragged on, the boy would tire. The moment he faltered, he would lose. Yushu nodded, satisfied. He asked the king if this boy was an enemy. The king confirmed it, his voice trembling with hidden fear. Yushu told him not to worry. If Uncle Liu said the boy would fall, he would fall. The king invited Yushu to a seat of honor, his eyes never leaving the golden light clashing in the center of the room. They were all waiting for the moment my disciple's strength would finally break. The crowd noticed Qin Yushu's arrival immediately. Whispers broke out like wildfire through the hall. Who was this guy? Nobody seemed to know, but the king was treating him with more respect than anyone I'd ever seen. He sat in a position of honor that even the two great elders from the Shangqing sect couldn't claim. People started speculating. Maybe the king knew the Qin family was coming to cause trouble and hired this man as a secret weapon? Others argued that the king shouldn't be afraid of the Qin family, especially since no one could have predicted a monster like Yinxian appearing. Curiosity burned, but the battle in the center of the room was too intense to ignore. The eyes of the court quickly snapped back to the clashing gold light. Meanwhile, inside the palace depths, I was busy. De Huang and I were hunting for the fetal bead, but we were coming up empty. Can you actually find it? De Huang grumbled, his patience wearing thin. It's been forever. Aren't you worried that Yinxian kid is getting slaughtered out there? I didn't stop moving. If he dies, it's his fate. The Chun family has plenty of people. If he's gone, I'll just train another one. De Huang stopped and stared at me. Holy crap, you're more of a beast than I am. And I'm an actual divine beast. Do you really not care about him at all? I sighed. If he wants to grow, he has to face real danger. If he can't handle a tiny place like the Great Zhou Kingdom, how is he going to survive the rest of the world? Now, stop worrying about useless things and help me find that bead. My head was starting to throb. I couldn't believe we hadn't found it yet. Had the royal family lost it? I told you, De Huang barked. That thing has no aura. I can't sense it. You have to find it yourself. The best I can do is keep our presence hidden so we don't get caught. I cursed under my breath. We had searched every single treasury in this palace. It was like the bead didn't exist anymore. De Huang asked me a question that made me pause. What would the royal family even want with it? To anyone else but me, that bead was useless. You couldn't refine it, and you couldn't use it for cultivation. We looked at each other, and a realization hit us both at the same time. De Huang started snickering, a nasty, mocking sound. I glared at him, but he didn't care. Don't look at me like that, he scoffed. I'm not a member of your family. Your descendants are a bunch of losers and spendthrifts. He wasn't wrong. It had been 10,000 years. It was inevitable that a few idiots would be born into the lineage. Not everyone could be as reliable as Chun Zhengyuan. Out of the 9 fetal beads my family once held, only one was left in their hands. The rest were gone, likely traded away by my ungrateful descendants. I could see the history playing out in my mind. The Chun family had declined and needed a place to settle. They chose the great Zhou kingdom. To get on the king's good side, they needed a bribe, something impressive. The fetal bead was ancient, beautiful, and looked like a priceless treasure, even if no one knew what it did. They probably gave it to the king as a gift. At first, the royal family probably studied it with great interest. But after years of finding no use for it, it would have become nothing more than a pretty trinket. And what do you do with a pretty, useless trinket in a palace? You stick it on a crown, or a piece of jewelry for a queen. The thought made my skin crawl. My own life source bead, stuck on some woman's head like a common pearl. What's the plan then? De Huang asked. I looked toward the inner palace where the royal consorts lived. There are a lot of women in this palace. Let's go pay them a visit. De Huang's eyes lit up with a wicked glint. Heh, now you're talking. Let's go. A series of dull thuds echoed through the private quarters. Before long, a dozen palace maids and concubines were slumped on the floor, unconscious. De Huang, what is wrong with you? I hissed. Why are you knocking out the maids? You think the king gave the bead to a servant? The dog was having way too much fun. I'm just being careful. I don't want us to be seen. Besides, have you found it yet? I sighed, looking at the piles of jewelry I'd searched through. Nothing. It's not on any of these people. De Huang gave me a look that was pure filth. Well, since they're already knocked out, we shouldn't let the opportunity go to waste, right? It's been a long time since I've had some fun. I knew exactly what he was thinking. This dog was a menace. No, absolutely not. We are here for the bead, not for your perversions. We're moving on. Come on, he groaned. We're already here. Are we brothers or not? We're brothers, but I have limits, I told him firmly. We're finding that bead. De Huang huffed and plopped his butt onto the ground, refusing to move. He was throwing a tantrum. I looked at his stubborn face and felt like kicking him. We were in the middle of a heist, and my partner was a horny, lazy dog. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. Look, De Huang, I whispered, glancing at the dog. Since we came out, you've eaten your fill of delicacies. Have I ever let you go hungry? Have I ever let you go thirsty? Now you're telling me you want to eat human flesh right in front of me? Don't you think that's a bit much? The dog huffed, looking genuinely offended. I could see the stubbornness in his eyes. To everyone else, De Huang looked like a common mutt, but his true form was a Qilin, a fierce, divine beast. To a creature like him, eating humans wasn't a big deal. In fact, he had swallowed me whole once. If my body wasn't so unique, I would have been turned into dog fertilizer a long time ago. These women are part of the great Zhou royal family. De Huang barked back, his voice echoing in my head. You said it yourself, they're the enemy. Didn't you tell your disciple that we don't show mercy to enemies? So what if I eat a few? I'm just helping you clear the obstacles. I stared at him. This was the exact logic I had just taught Qin Yinxian. It felt a little awkward having my own words thrown back in my face. I'm a kind-hearted person, I said, keeping a straight face. I can't stand to watch scenes like that. You? Kind-hearted? De Huang sneered. Then why did you tell the kid to pull the grass out by the roots and kill everyone? That's different, I argued. I taught him the theory, but I didn't pull the trigger. Qin Yinxian is the one doing the killing. What does that have to do with me? Is there a difference? You're the one who ordered him to do it. It's completely different, I insisted. He could have refused me. He didn't. So really it's on him. De Huang stared at me with pure disdain. Qin Chang'an, you are truly shameless. It's not like you just met me today, I replied. The dog looked back at the unconscious women and licked his chops. There are so many of them. It's enough for a full banquet. Are you really sure I can't have just one? I'm sure. Why would you even want to eat them? They're covered in makeup and powder. Aren't you afraid of getting poisoned? De Huang rolled his eyes. My body is a lot tougher than yours. Nothing is going to kill me. Besides, it's been a while. I just wanted to see if they taste like I remember. Who says I have to eat gourmet food all the time? Can't I have a little snack? A snack? You call this a snack? I shook my head. Stop talking nonsense. We need to check the front hall. Yinxian has been holding out for a long time. He has, De Huang admitted, his tone shifting to one of rare respect. The kid is good. If he'd had proper training from the start, he'd be a world-class genius by now. That was high praise coming from De Huang. He'd seen plenty of so-called prodigies in his time. Chen Yinxuan's only weakness was his lack of resources growing up. If he'd had a solid foundation from childhood, a 16-year-old with his talent would be unstoppable. Back at the main square, the crowd was in shock. Is this kid even human? He was facing two masters at the peak of the 9th level of the Transcendence realm, and he wasn't losing. He had held his ground for ages. People talk about geniuses who can fight above their level, but this was ridiculous. In the entire northern region, no one had ever heard of a monster like this. The members of the Liu family watched with complicated expressions. A seed of regret began to grow in their hearts. If they hadn't betrayed the Chen family, if they hadn't been so ungrateful when the family fell into poverty, would things be different now? He has to die, the head of the Liu family hissed, his face pale. If he doesn't die, none of us in the Liu family will live to see tomorrow. Regret was quickly replaced by a desperate need for his death. The king of Great Zhou felt the same way. He was starting to panic. He thought a kid at the first level of transcendence would crumble in seconds, but Yunxian was incredibly durable. Master Chang, is he going to lose soon? The king asked nervously. Cheng Yushu didn't answer. He looked at his bodyguard. Uncle Liu, what do you think? The boy is strong, Uncle Liu analyzed. His spiritual energy reserves are massive, which is why he's lasted this long. A normal cultivator would have run dry by now, but he can't last forever. Within 20 moves, his strength will start to fail. The king let out a long breath of relief. If that was the case, this farce would finally end. Kid, you're good, Wei Tianfeng growled, his face flushed with shame. But don't think you can do whatever you want. You're still far from our level. He and the other master, Wu Yuan, were fuming. Being pushed this far by a teenager in front of a crowd was a stain on their reputations that would never wash away. Is that so? Chen Yunxian smiled coldly. I don't think so. Suddenly, his aura exploded. The air around him shimmered and cracked. Break for me, he roared. The sudden surge of power caught everyone off guard. Even Cheng Yushu and Uncle Liu jumped to their feet. He's breaking through in the middle of a fight, someone screamed. He had reached the 2nd level of the Transcendence realm. It was unheard of. Usually, a warrior has to focus every ounce of their being on a fight, especially when outnumbered. There's no room to think about cultivation or leveling up. But Yunxian hadn't just held his own. He had used the pressure to evolve. Uncle Liu, have you ever seen anything like this? Cheng Yushu asked, his brow furrowed. Never, the old man replied grimly. Either his cultivation technique is bizarre, or he was suppressing his power all along and chose this moment to release it. I suspect he was suppressing it. Wei Tianfeng and Wu Yuan exchanged a look of pure dread. He was hard enough to handle at the 1st level. Now that he had jumped to the 2nd, things were about to get much worse. Chen Yunxian felt the new power surging through his veins. He looked at his hands and smiled. The ancestor was right, he whispered. Combat really is the fastest way to grow. He looked up at the two masters. His eyes were cold. This fight is over. Don't get cocky, brat. Wu Yuan roared. You think a 1-level jump lets you crush us? We'll see, Yunxian said. In a blur of motion, he vanished. Before Wei Tianfeng could even blink, Yunxian was standing right in front of him. Wei Tianfeng didn't even have time to react. Before he could raise a hand, Yunxuan's fist slammed into his chest with the force of a falling mountain. The impact sent Wei Tianfeng flying backward through the air. He coughed up a spray of crimson blood, his body crashing hard against the stone. The crowd went silent. I watched from the shadows of the family's legacy, but even the onlookers were losing their minds. He had only broken through by one small level, yet the power gap was terrifying. Wei Tianfeng, a master of his rank, couldn't even handle a single punch. People started whispering that Yinxian was trying to defy the heavens themselves. No, I thought to myself, he wasn't trying. He had already done it. Wu Yuan was the first to snap out of the shock. His eyes darted around, looking for any escape route. He didn't want glory anymore. He wanted to live. But as he turned to bolt, Yinxian appeared behind him like a ghost. Going somewhere? Yinxian asked. I surrender. Wu Yuan started to scream, but the word never finished. Yinchuan's fist connected, sending him spiraling through the air to land right next to his partner. The silence that followed was heavy. It felt like the world itself had frozen in time. Nobody expected this. Even Cheng Yushu and Uncle Lu looked like they'd seen a ghost. Uncle Lu's face was beet red. He had just finished predicting that Yinxian would fall within 20 moves, and now the kid had ended the fight with 2 punches. We lose, Wei Tianfeng managed to choke out, clutching his chest. From this day on, we will return to the Shangqing sect and never leave its gates. The Chen family wins. The crowd gasped. The 2 great elders of the strongest sect in the great Zhou kingdom were giving up. They were choosing lifelong imprisonment over facing this boy again. One teenager had brought the most powerful sect to its knees. If anyone had said this was possible yesterday, they would have been laughed at as a madman. You lose and you just leave? Yinchuan's voice was cold. If I had lost, would you have let me walk away? Do you think I'm some naive child? He took a step forward, his killing intent flaring. This isn't a sparring match. This is a battle of life and death. You don't get to walk away just because you said a few words. You, don't push us too far. Wu Yuan roared, his voice trembling with rage and fear. Push you too far? Yinxian laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're at the peak of the 9th level of the Transcendence realm. Did you think about fairness when you attacked me? If I were weak, I'd be a corpse right now. At your age, don't you understand how the world works? It's kill or be killed. When I came here, I was ready to die, or to kill you. The onlookers felt a chill. Some thought he was being too harsh, but the logic was undeniable. Is there no room for a truce? Wei Tianfeng asked, frowning. There was never a chance, Yinxian replied. Your sect sent people to Yangui City to attack the Chen family. Did you really think we'd just forget that? Wei Tianfeng and Wu Yuan looked at each other, genuinely confused. They hadn't known about any attack. Who? Wei Tianfeng roared, turning toward his own people. Who did something so stupid? It was me, the 3rd elder stammered, his face turning a deep shade of purple. He knew he couldn't hide it anymore. Too many people knew the truth. You. Wei Tianfeng looked like he wanted to kill his own son right there. Enough, Yinxian interrupted. It doesn't matter who did it. The result is the same. The king of Great Zhou saw the writing on the wall. If the Shangqing sect fell, his kingdom was next. He turned to Cheng Yushu, pleading for help. Young Master Cheng, please. We are a vassal of your family. You can't just watch us be destroyed. Cheng Yushu sighed. He enjoyed the show, but he couldn't let his family's reputation slide by doing nothing. He stood up and looked at Yinxian with a condescending smile. You're quite talented, kid. Cheng Yushu said, his voice dripping with arrogance. I am Cheng Yushu, the young master of the Northern Prison Chen family. Surely you've heard of us. The crowd erupted in whispers. The Northern Prison Chen family was a titan, a powerhouse that ruled their region with an iron fist. But Yinxian just stared at him. Never heard of you, he said flatly. The crowd nearly fainted. To be that blunt to a young master of a great house was suicide. Even if he hadn't heard of them, he should have played along. But Yinxian didn't care about politics. Cheng Yushu's smile twitched, but he forced a laugh. Haha, you're an interesting guy. Well, you've heard of us now. Give me some face and let this go. From now on, you'll be a friend of my family. It's better to have friends than enemies, don't you think? The people around them started nodding, praising Cheng Yushu's generosity and vision. They looked at Yinxian, waiting for him to bow and accept the lifeline. Yinxian looked Cheng Yushu dead in the eye. I think your idea sucks. Cheng Yushu's face turned dark instantly. Kid, do you really want to die that badly? I'm guessing I won't, Yinxian replied. Then you guessed wrong, Cheng Yushu snapped. Uncle Lu. Yes, young master. The old man stepped forward. Meanwhile, back in the king's private chambers, I was hunched over a tea table with De Huang. We were staring intensely at a small object. You think this is it? De Huang asked, tilting his head. I don't think so, I said, my voice filled with disappointment. It definitely isn't. I don't know, the dog muttered, squinting. It looks a little like it. Just a bit darker. I felt a surge of pure, unadulterated annoyance rising in my chest. I had traveled 10,000 years for this. I felt a sudden, violent urge to vent my frustration. I want to kill someone, I growled. De Huang looked at me. Who? Everyone, I muttered. I want to chop them all down. That seems excessive, De Huang said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You don't have to kill everyone. You could just go dig up your descendant's grave, and then maybe chop the king of Great Zhou into pieces. If you're still mad, wipe out his whole clan. But everyone else? They're innocent. Shut up, I snapped. Don't blame me, the dog muttered. I didn't do this to it. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. I had imagined 100 scenarios for finding this artifact, but this was easily the worst one. The good news was that the fetal bead had been found. The bad news? I deeply regretted finding it. The bead was indeed in the hands of the royal family, specifically the king himself. But instead of studying it or locking it away, the man had spent every single day fiddling with it. He had rubbed it so much it had developed a thick, greasy patina. The bead was black, oily, and honestly, it looked disgusting. Just looking at it made my stomach churn. How am I supposed to merge with this? I asked, recoiling. It's repulsive. Are you really going to pass it up? De Huang asked, unbothered. It's vital for you. Besides, you're not eating the thing. What are you afraid of? Do you even know what disgusting means? Nope. Never heard of it. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Right. I forgot who I was talking to. You're a dog. You literally eat crap. Chinchongan, don't you dare slander me. De Huang barked. When have I ever eaten crap? When you eat people, do you think they've emptied their bowels first? The dog froze. That actually makes a lot of sense. So I have eaten it. He went silent for a moment, looking thoughtful, as if trying to recall a specific flavor. I digest things too fast. I can't remember the taste. Then, he actually stuck his tongue out and licked his chops. Ugh, you're revolting, I muttered. I took a deep breath and turned my attention back to the bead on the tea table. I had to do this. From the moment I saw the fetal bead, my body had been reacting violently, screaming at me to merge with it. If it hadn't looked so oily and gross, I would have grabbed it 10 minutes ago. I reached out and picked it up. As soon as my skin touched it, the bead reacted. It transformed into a streak of black, greasy light. This time, it didn't fly into my forehead. It shot straight into my chest, settling right where my heart was. A wave of comfort washed over me. I felt my pores opening, and for the first time in ages, I could feel the spiritual energy of the world flowing into me. I could cultivate again. It worked, I said, a smile finally breaking through my frustration. But to keep going, I'll need to find the other 7 beads. Great, De Huang urged. Now let's move. If we stay here any longer, that kid Qin Yinxian isn't going to make it. The dog was clearly itching to get back to the action outside. He hated missing a good show. Outside, the air was thick with tension. Old Man Lu struck Qin Yinxian again, sending him skidding back across the ground. The old man's indifferent expression was starting to crack. He looked at the boy with genuine confusion. Was this kid really not afraid to die? He knew he was outmatched, yet he kept charging back in. You're impressive, Lu said. Your talent and strength are far beyond anyone your age. But why? Why keep fighting when you know you can't win? Yinxian wiped the blood from his mouth and looked at Lu. Then he laughed. So what if I can't win? Running isn't an option for me. Giving up isn't either. You're stronger than me, but that doesn't mean I quit. As long as I'm breathing, I'll keep standing. Until my very last breath. The crowd went silent. Even the cultivators watching felt a surge of respect. Without that kind of iron will, no one could ever truly reach the peak of cultivation. Old Man Lu felt a pang of pity. A genius like this shouldn't die here. But he had his orders. I hope you don't regret this, Lu whispered. He moved. This time, there was no hesitation. He didn't hold back a single ounce of power. He intended to end the fight and Yunxuan's life right now. But as Lu lunged, Yinxian did something strange. He closed his eyes. The crowd gasped. Was he giving up? After all that talk, was he just waiting for death? Lu frowned, confused by the boy's behavior. But just as his palm was inches away from Yunxuan's chest, a massive, violent surge of energy exploded from the boy's body. The shockwave was so powerful that Lu's face paled. He instantly shifted from an attack to a defensive stance. Boom. The crowd erupted in screams. How is this possible? What did he just do? He's defying the heavens again. That man is in the supernatural realm. Before everyone's eyes, Old Man Lu, a powerhouse, had been blown back by nothing but the aura leaking out of Yinxian. It made no sense. This kid was supposed to be in the transcendent realm. Epiphany, Lu gasped, his voice trembling. He's in a state of sudden enlightenment. Not only did he break through during a fight, but he's entered an epiphany. Enlightenment was the dream of every cultivator. It required insane perception and perfect timing. Most people never experienced it once in their lives. Doing it in the middle of a life-or-death battle was unheard of. But there was a catch. While a cultivator is in an epiphany, they are completely vulnerable. They are like a lamb waiting for the slaughter. Lu sighed, a mix of pity and envy swirling in his eyes. He had spent his whole life training and had never touched that state. Young master, Lu said, turning to Cheng Yushu. If you observe him while he's in this state, it could benefit your own cultivation. Perhaps we should. Lu wanted to wait. He didn't want to kill a genius while his back was turned. But Cheng Yushu's face was dark. He saw the danger. No, Cheng Yushu said coldly. He's too dangerous. We can't give him a single second. Kill him now. The crowd held its breath. They had hoped Yinxian might pull off a miracle, but Yushu wasn't taking any chances. I understand, Lu said, nodding sadly. He looked at Yinxian one last time. It was a tragedy. A monster like this only appeared once in 1,000 years, and now he was going to die by Lu's hand. You don't have the qualifications to kill him. My voice cut through the tension like a blade. Everyone froze. Before anyone could react, I stepped out from the shadows, De Huang trotting casually at my side. I moved right in front of Chun Yinxian, shielding my disciple from Old Man Lu's killing blow. The crowd erupted in whispers. Who was this? Another Qin family member? The sight of a handsome young man accompanied by a scruffy yellow dog was strange, to say the least. But in the crowd, two faces turned pale. Lu Qingfeng and Lu Mingyan looked like they had seen a ghost. It's him, Lu Qingfeng stammered. It's really him. Who is he? The Lu family head asked, his voice sharp with nerves. He's the one Qin Zhenyuan called the ancestor. Qin Chang'an. Lu Qingfeng's voice rose to a terrified roar, as if shouting the name would somehow protect him. The spectators went wild. The Qin family had an ancestor? Some of the older guests started piecing it together. They remembered rumors from years ago that the Qin family had a legendary figure who had been taken away by a supreme power. Most people had dismissed it as a boast to hide their decline. But now, he was standing right there. Still, the confusion remained. I looked barely older than Yinxian. And my cultivation level? I was only at the first layer of the spirit origin realm. To them, I looked like a weakling. Cheng Yushu, the young master from the central region, stared at me with a mix of confusion and disdain. Aside from being annoyingly handsome, I didn't seem to possess any threat at all. I ignored them. My eyes were fixed on Yinxian. Seeing him enter an epiphany in the heat of battle was a genuine surprise. I had left him alone earlier because I needed to find the fetal bead, but also because a genius only grows when pushed to the brink. Real tempering isn't done with words, it's done with blood. Everyone, I apologize, I said with a faint smile. My descendant needs a bit of time. If you aren't in a rush, please wait. Old Man Lu frowned, his hand hovering near his sword. You are the Qin family ancestor? Is there a problem? I asked. My calm demeanor threw him off. I acted like they were nothing more than ants. He didn't dare move without orders, so he looked back at Cheng Yushu. Cheng Yushu was starting to regret his life choices. He had just come here to act as a witness for a marriage annulment, not to get tangled in some ancient family drama. Meanwhile, the king of the great Zhou kingdom wasn't looking at me. His eyes were glued to De Huang. A dog that could talk? This had to be the legendary beast he'd heard about. He realized the situation had turned lethal. The Qin family wasn't backing down, and the experts he relied on from the central region looked hesitant. The king glanced at Chung Yushu and saw the hesitation in the young man's eyes. He knew he couldn't wait any longer. It was kill or be killed. Order the 20,000 troops outside to move, the king whispered to his commander. Kill Chun Yinxian first, then take down the ancestor and the dog. I don't care how many men it takes. Even if they are gods, they can't kill 20,000 people at once. It was a desperate gamble. He was going for a war of attrition. Even if he couldn't kill me, as long as he killed Yinxian, the future threat to his throne would be gone. Old man Lu, let's go, Chung Yushu suddenly announced. The king's heart sank. The central region elites were washing their hands of this mess. To a powerhouse family like the Chins in the central region, the great Zhou royalty were disposable. If one king died, they'd just pick another. As Chung Yushu and Lu turned to leave, De Huang looked up at me. You're just going to let them walk away? Why not? I replied softly. They are Yunchuan's opponents. I'll leave them for him to handle when he wakes up. Besides, I'm far too powerful to be bullying children. It wouldn't be appropriate. De Huang rolled his eyes. He knew the truth. I was only at the first layer of spirit origin. In a real fight, old man Lu would probably flatten me. My only real power was that I literally couldn't die. The crowd, however, didn't hear my internal monologue. They only heard the dog. The dog, it talked, someone screamed. It's a mutation. It has to be. They were terrified but ignorant. They couldn't even fathom the idea of a high-level spirit beast, so they rationalized it as a freak of nature. I don't care if you're an ancestor or a fraud with a spirit origin cultivation, the king roared, his face twisted with rage. And I don't care about your talking dog. Today, the royal family will not be humiliated. Even if we die, we're taking you with us. The guests finally realized the palace was about to become a slaughterhouse. They scrambled for the exits, but it was too late. Outside the palace walls, the sound of heavy armor and marching boots thundered. 20,000 soldiers had surrounded the grounds, weapons drawn, waiting for the final signal. De Huang looked at the king, then back at me with a toothy grin. I think he's looking down on you, boss. I think he's actually looking down on you, I said, my voice calm despite the surrounding chaos. De Huang let out a huff. Yeah, I guess you have a point. He stretched his paws, looking bored. But let's get one thing straight. I'm not lifting a finger. I want to see how this plays out. If I step in, it'll be too boring. I smiled. Fine. Just keep the peace for a moment. Make sure no one interrupts me. I want to see what this second fetal bead can actually do. No problem, the dog muttered, settling back onto his haunches. I closed my eyes and began to circulate my cultivation technique. In an instant, the air around us shifted. The spiritual energy of the world didn't just flow toward me, it roared. It hit my body like a tidal wave, rushing into my meridians with violent intensity. The crowd gasped, the soldiers froze, and someone yelled, "What's happening?" The spiritual energy, it's vanishing. Look at him. He's actually cultivating right now. Wait, is he really only at the first layer of spirit origin? The whispers turned into panicked shouts. People couldn't wrap their heads around it. The speed at which I was devouring energy was unnatural. In a heartbeat, the spiritual essence of the entire capital city seemed to be sucked dry, pulled into the vortex of my body. The king of the great Zhou wasn't impressed. He was terrified. He saw a window of opportunity while I was distracted by my breakthrough. Don't give him time, the king roared, his face purple with rage. Kill him now. Everyone, attack together. Wei Tianfeng and Wu Yuan, the two strongest masters remaining, reacted first. They were both at the peak of the transcendent realm. They exchanged a look and nodded. You take the kid, Chun Yinxian, Wei Tianfeng barked. I'll handle the ancestor. They lunged, and two streaks of lethal power blurred toward us. De Huang didn't even bother to look up. He was lying on the ground, his mind wandering to what he wanted for dinner. He briefly considered eating a human, then remembered my comments about where humans keep their waste and shuddered. Disgusting, he thought. Maybe I'll stick to chicken. Boom. Two massive explosions rocked the palace floor. The ground cracked, but the dust settled to a shocking sight. Wei Tianfeng and Wu Yuan were flying backward, crashing into the stone pillars. How? Wei Tianfeng gasped, coughing up blood. Why couldn't we even get close? What happened? The king screamed. What hit them? The guests were just as confused. They saw the two masters get bounced back like rubber balls hitting a wall. They didn't understand what they were looking at, which made De Huang roll his eyes in contempt. Backwater peasants, he thought. They don't even recognize a basic barrier. To a legendary beast like De Huang, setting up an invisible shield was as easy as breathing. To these people, it was dark magic. I don't believe in ghosts, the king screamed, losing his mind. Archers, aim at the center. Volley fire. Kill them all. Thousands of arrows rained down, blocking out the sun. They whistled through the air, heading straight for me and Yunxian. But as they hit the invisible barrier, they simply snapped and fell to the floor like toothpicks. Keep firing, the king yelled. As the arrows cluttered the ground, my power began to spike. Second layer, someone in the crowd shouted. Wait, third layer. How is he moving so fast? Fourth, fifth. It was unheard of. In the span of 10 breaths, I had jumped 4 levels. I didn't stop. The speed of my absorption was thousands of times faster than it had been back in Yingwei City. De Huang watched me, his eyes narrowing. He realized I wasn't just taking the city's energy. I was draining the entire great Zhou kingdom dry. Stop him, the king shrieked. Everyone, if he finishes this, we're all dead. The army, the Liu family, and every mercenary in the room charged the barrier. They threw everything they had, swords, spears, magical blasts. It was all useless. De Huang just flipped over on his back, watching them struggle like a bunch of angry ants. 9th layer of spirit origin, a scout yelled, his voice cracking. He's at the peak. He broke through. He's in the true Qi realm now. The spectators were beginning to question their own reality. People spent decades trying to cross these gaps. I was doing it in seconds. Some of the cultivators in the crowd looked like they wanted to give up on life entirely. Then, just as I hit the first layer of the true Qi realm, the suction stopped. The vortex vanished. Is it over? De Huang asked, peering at me. Yeah, I said, letting out a long, frustrated breath. The great Zhou is too poor. There isn't enough spiritual energy left to keep going. What do you mean? De Huang asked. Didn't you get enough for the breakthrough? It's hard to explain, I replied, looking at my hands. My body is like a massive container. The breakthrough happened, but the container isn't full. It's like a door slammed shut right when I was about to fill the bottle. I'm stuck at the first layer of true Qi, and I feel like I've got a lump in my throat. It was an annoying sensation. I wasn't satisfied, but I was definitely stronger. I turned my gaze toward the barrier, looking at the exhausted soldiers and the trembling king. I stepped forward, walking right through the shimmering wall. These enemies were persistent. They kept charging the barrier, faces twisted with desperation. I looked at the sea of soldiers and smiled faintly. De Huang, drop the barrier, I said. I want to see what I'm capable of now. The dog gave a dark little grin. With a single thought, the shimmering wall vanished. The moment it disappeared, a massive wave of pressure exploded from my body. The force was so violent that the surrounding soldiers were blasted back dozens of meters before they even knew what hit them. Isn't he just in the true Qi realm? Someone screamed. How can his aura be this terrifying? His breakthrough is over. This is our chance. Kill him. I looked at the frantic crowd. This farce needs to end, I said softly. I didn't have a sword, so I picked up a stray piece of paper. I flicked my fingers, treating the paper like a divine blade. A streak of sword Qi erupted, surging forward like a collapsing mountain range. It was a horizontal flash of light that seemed to divide the world in two. Where the Qi passed, nothing remained. Not the grass, not the stones, and certainly not the men. The world went silent. When the light faded, the ground was carpeted with thousands of corpses. A single flick of my finger had wiped out an entire army. The king of the great Zhou kingdom fell to his knees. His eyes were hollow. He had lost. Completely and utterly. He had thought numbers would save him, but numbers meant nothing against a god. There were tens of thousands of soldiers in the palace grounds, and I had cut through them like they were dry straw. He knew it was over. Even if he screamed for the soldiers outside to charge, they wouldn't. They weren't stupid. Coming in here was just suicide. Who are you? The king asked, staring up at me. Just let me know who killed me. I don't grant deathbed wishes, I replied. I didn't waste any more words. I moved through the remaining elites like a shadow. By the time I was done, the Great Zhou Kingdom was a memory. The two elders from the Shanqing sect, their disciples, the entire royal family, and the Liu family, all gone. Some innocent guests were caught in the crossfire, but in a war of this scale, there was no such thing as a clean victory. Chen Yinxian finally opened his eyes. He looked around at the mountain of bodies and blinked in shock. They're all dead? Ancestor, you had to step in? He looked ashamed. He had promised to handle this himself, but he had fallen into a trance in the middle of the battlefield. Gaining enlightenment during a fight isn't always a good thing, I told him sternly. If I wasn't here, you'd be a corpse. Don't let it happen again. I understand, Ancestor. I'll try to control it next time. Control it. De Huang barked, sounding genuinely impressed. Kid, you think you can just turn enlightenment on and off? I think I can, Yinxian said seriously. Bloody hell, the dog cursed. You're a freak. Even De Huang, who had seen everything in his long life, was stunned. Yinchuan's talent was starting to eclipse the legendary geniuses of old. De Huang asked him what he'd been doing for the first 16 years of his life to stay so mediocre. Yinxian just scratched his head, admitting he'd worked hard, but only recently felt like his brain had finally clicked. Without resources or a proper master, his talent had been buried. I was the one who had dug it out. What did you gain from the trance? I asked. My cultivation didn't jump, Yinxian explained, but my foundation is rock solid now, and I've realized my own intent. Intent? I was surprised. He was only in the transcendent realm. What kind? Since I practice the Overlord body technique, my path is one of unstoppable power. My intent is built on that dominance. I can wrap my body in it or project it outward to crush my enemies. He called it the Heavenly One intent. It was a bold name, implying he was number one under heaven. I liked his confidence. Let's go, I said. It's time to regroup with Chun Jingyuan. We turned to leave, but De Huang suddenly froze. His ears perked up, and a look of genuine shock crossed his face. I'd rarely seen the dog look this worried. Then, I felt it too. I looked up. The sky was changing. A massive swirl of energy was beginning to wrap around the atmosphere, and ripples of seven-colored light were pulsing through the clouds. A heavenly phenomenon. I frowned. De Huang, what's happening? I don't know, the dog whispered, his voice grave. But that energy, it's terrifying. Thousands of miles away, near the peak of Yunshao Mountain, a woman named Mu Yunyao arrived. It had taken her 10 days of nonstop travel to get there. She wasn't alone. Scouts from every major sect were gathered at the base of the mountain, watching the summit. The seven-colored light was strongest there. The very air was vibrating with power. The mountain is moving, the scouts whispered. Does this mean the rankings are finally opening? The scouts didn't wait to find out. They rushed back to their sects to report the news. Mu Yunyao watched them leave and shook her head. They were fools. If the rankings truly opened, the whole world would see it. There was no need to report anything. She looked up at the glowing peak, her eyes reflecting the shimmering light. The world was about to change, and she had a feeling my return was the spark that lit the fuse. A flicker of memory crossed Mu Yunyao's eyes as she watched the glowing peak. Tens of thousands of years had passed, but the three legendary rankings, Heaven, Earth, and Mortal, were finally reappearing in this world. She wondered what kind of chaos this would bring to the great Taishan realm this time. As she stood there lost in thought, a streak of light erupted from the summit of Yunshao Mountain. The Mortal ranking shot into the sky, unfolding like a massive, endless scroll that threatened to cover the entire firmament. But as the world looked up, they saw something strange. The scroll was blank. There wasn't a single word on it. What's going on? People whispered in the streets. Is it broken? Or is something terrible about to happen? The common folk were panicking, but the ancient powers knew better. This was the start of a new cycle, a new reincarnation of fate. I stood in the courtyard of the Great Zhou Palace, staring up at the giant blank canvas in the sky. De Huang, have you seen this before? I asked, glancing down at the dog. What is it? Never seen it, De Huang muttered, his tail stiff. But I can feel it. It's not simple. No kidding, I snapped. A blind man could see that. I stopped questioning him and kept my eyes on the sky. A moment later, tiny characters began to manifest on the scroll. Even though they were high in the atmosphere, the writing was crystal clear. It felt like the words were floating right in front of my eyes. "The mortal ranking has opened," I whispered, reading the text aloud. The rules appeared beneath the title. It was simple but brutal. Anyone in the Taishan realm under the age of 30, whether a cultivator or a commoner, was eligible. The first stage would rank everyone based on their current cultivation level. This stage would last 3 years, with the rankings updating annually. After 3 years, the list would be finalized. Only the top 500 would remain. The prize? A gift from the heavenly Tao itself. The world went silent for a heartbeat before erupting into a frenzy. A gift from the heavens was enough to make even the most composed genius lose their mind. But Mu Yunyao, watching from the mountain, frowned. She remembered the last time the rankings appeared. Back then, the mortal ranking was just a simple talent scout for the top 500 to move on to the Earth ranking. But this time, the words "first stage" were clearly displayed. That meant something much bigger and more dangerous was coming. Suddenly, names started appearing. "Wait, I thought it only updated once a year," someone shouted. "Why is it showing names now?" It was a preliminary ranking based on current strength. The world held its breath. Everyone wanted to see who the strongest young person in the world was. I watched as the number 1 spot flickered into existence. First place, Yahello. Age, 29. Cultivation, first layer of the God transformation realm. The world went quiet. A 29-year-old at the God transformation realm? Most people hadn't even heard of that level. The highest stage most commoners knew was the supernatural realm. To them, this Yahello was basically a god. In a distant sect, Yahello looked up at his own name and smirked. As expected, he boasted, "The number 1 spot belongs to me." But he wasn't the only monster out there. Second place was Yi Baiming, also 29 and at the God transformation realm. Third was Gu Fengyao. The top 5 were all at the same level. The gap between these geniuses and the rest of the world was a vast, terrifying ocean. "Ancestor," a voice cracked beside me. I turned to see Chen Yinxian staring at the sky. He had finally found his name, but he looked crushed. He was ranked somewhere in the thousands. For a boy who was considered the pride of his family, this was a heavy blow. "The Taishan realm is a big place, Yinxian," I said, my voice firm. "You're only 16 and you've already reached the extraordinary realm. These people at the top have 13 years of cultivation on you. If I give you 13 years, where do you think you'll be?" He took a deep breath, his eyes clearing. "You're right, ancestor. I still have 3 years. I won't let them stay ahead of me." I nodded, satisfied. I wished I could join him, but I was way too old for this particular game. I looked back at De Huang, who was staring at the scroll with an expression I couldn't read. "What are you looking at now?" I asked. "I'm wondering if it's going to list every single person under 30, De Huang whispered. "Look at the count." I looked up and blinked. The names were scrolling past at a blinding speed, hundreds every second. "What's the number at?" I asked. 397 million. De Huang trailed off as the numbers blurred. "Wait, it just hit 1 billion. 1 billion names. Out of 1 billion people, only 500 would be chosen." This wasn't a competition, it was a slaughter. For the first time, I realized just how massive this world truly was, and how many lives were about to be swept up in the storm I had helped restart. The list kept growing, filling the sky until even the names of toddlers began to appear. The era of peace was officially over. I looked up at the sky, watching the list of names grow. It was absurd. Does this list really think infants and toddlers are going to qualify in 3 years? I muttered. "You don't understand a thing," De Huang grunted, his eyes fixed on the glowing scroll. "This human ranking is formed by the heavenly Tao itself. It follows the laws of the universe. By the rules, every eligible soul must appear, whether they have a chance of winning or not." "I see," I replied. "So it's just a census of an entire generation." The names flashed by faster and faster until the blurring light finally began to slow. The scrolling stopped. I squinted at the final tally. 28 billion, I breathed. It was a staggering, terrifying number. Nearly 3 billion people under the age of 30, all technically in the running for those 500 spots. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the list vanished. The sky returned to its natural blue, leaving the world in a stunned silence. I realized then that it wouldn't reappear for another year, when the first official rankings would be updated. The era of peace was dead. The entire Taishian realm was about to descend into a frenzy. Even if people couldn't reach the top 10, the rewards for being in the top 500 were enough to make empires go to war. But I didn't care much about the rankings. They didn't really involve me. After leaving the capital of the Great Zhou Kingdom, De Huang and I headed to the meeting point I had arranged with Chen Jingyuan. When we arrived, the family head bowed low, his face pale with lingering shock. "Ancestor, you've arrived," Chen Jingyuan said, his voice trembling. "That ranking list, surely a master of your stature knows what it truly represents?" In his eyes, I was a 10,000-year-old monster who knew every secret of the heavens. I couldn't exactly tell him I was just as confused as he was. "It's a list formed by the heavenly Tao," I said, keeping my voice deep and mysterious. "And?" he asked, leaning in. "And that's it," I replied flatly. "I know as much as you do. This is the first time I've seen this happen too." He blinked, clearly disappointed that I didn't have a grand prophecy to share. I didn't bother making up a lie. There were more important things to discuss. "The business in Great Zhou is finished," I told the group. "That place is too small for the Chen family now. Your next goal is simple: become the #1 family in the North region." The atmosphere turned heavy. The North region was vast. While the Chen family was strong in a small kingdom like Great Zhou, they were small fish in a very large pond compared to the regional powerhouses. Chen Yinxian stepped forward, a confident smile on his face. "Don't worry, everyone. With me here, I'll make sure the Chen family stands at the top." Chen Jingyuan looked at his son and nodded. The boy had changed since our trip to the capital. He was sharper, more mature, and carried an aura that commanded respect. "Yinxian," I interrupted. "You have your own mission." "What is it, ancestor?" he asked. "Your mission is to become the strongest person in the North region within 1 year," I said. "And I don't mean the strongest among the youth. I mean the strongest, period." The group went silent. The strongest experts in the North region were at the peak of the supernatural realm. I was asking a 16-year-old to surpass them in 12 months. It was an impossible demand. Chen Yunxuan's eyes widened, but he didn't flinch. He took a deep breath and bowed. "I won't let you down, ancestor. I will be the strongest in the North within a year." "Good," I said. "Because once you conquer the North, your path lies beyond these 4 outer regions. You will go to the Central Heaven Territory." The Central Heaven Territory. That was where the Chun family had originated. The 4 outer regions were just barren lands in comparison. The Central Territory was where the Real Masters lived and where the spiritual energy of the world was concentrated. To the elites there, we were nothing but peasants. Chen Yinxian looked at me, his expression turning somber. "Ancestor, are you leaving us?" The air grew still. Chen Jingyuan and the others shifted uncomfortably. I had only been back for a short time, but I had become their pillar of strength. "Yes," I admitted. "It's time for me to go." I had stayed longer than I intended. My original plan was to wander the world with De Huang and enjoy a life of leisure after leaving Muyun Peak. I only came back to see how my bloodline was doing. Now that the fetal bead was in play and the family was on the right track, I needed to find the remaining beads and live my own life. "Will you come back?" Chen Jingyuan asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Perhaps we'll meet again in the Central Heaven Territory," I said with a small smile. "There's always a day for a reunion." I reached into my robe and pulled out 2 glowing pills. "These are transformation pills. Keep them. Do not use them unless the family is facing total extinction." These pills could instantly boost someone to the deity transformation realm, but the cost was steep. They would never be able to progress further in their cultivation, and their power would be weaker than someone who had earned it naturally. They were a last resort, a final insurance policy. "Thank you, ancestor," Chen Jingyuan said, taking them with shaking hands. "You share my blood," I said, looking at them one last time. "This is my parting gift. The road ahead is yours to walk. Never forget that the Chun family was once legendary. You are not inferior to anyone." "Yes, ancestor," they shouted in unison. "Until we meet again," I said. I turned and began walking away, De Huang trotting at my side. I didn't look back, but I could feel their eyes on my silk robes. I knew Chen Yinxian was watching me, his heart burning with a new ambition. He wasn't just fighting for a ranking anymore. He was fighting to prove he was worthy of my teachings. Father, I heard Yinxian say in the distance. I'm leaving too. I won't stay at home. I'm going to spend this year conquering the north. Go, Chun Jingyuan replied. Don't shame me, ancestor. I'll be waiting for your return. I smiled to myself as their voices faded. The world was about to get very loud, and I wanted to be somewhere quiet for a change. So, De Huang barked, breaking the silence. Where to next, great ancestor? Wherever the wind takes us, I replied. And hopefully, somewhere with better wine. I thought you'd stay at the Chun family forever, De Huang barked as we walked. I thought you'd wait for them to grow strong and watch Chen Yinxian reach his full potential. Leaving now? Are you really okay with letting that kid go? He's the absolute peak of talent among your descendants. I looked out at the horizon, my expression calm. Chen Yinxian has his own path to walk, I said quietly. He needs to face the world alone to grow. If he dies along the way, then that is simply his fate. Besides, staying at the Chun house is too boring. The world outside is much more colorful. De Huang shook his head in resignation. For a moment, he actually thought my personality had changed after returning to the family. He thought I'd become a responsible ancestor. But the second I stepped out of those gates, I was right back to my old self. So where are we going? He asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. Zhongtian region, I replied. Langya. Langya? De Huang paused, the name sounding familiar. He searched his memories. He was certain we hadn't visited that place during any of our past secret excursions. Then it clicked. Wait, if I remember correctly, wasn't that brat Lin Shangliu from Langya? I nodded. Yes, the Lin family of Langya. Thousands of years have passed. I don't know if he's still there or if he moved on. By now, he's probably reached the status of an old ancestor himself. He isn't the young man I met all those years ago. You want to go catch up with him? De Huang asked. Yes and no, I told him. Langya is much larger than the Northern Territory. My main goal is still the fetal beads. De Huang looked at me in surprise. You have a lead on the beads already? Aside from the one the great Zhou royalty had, where did you get more info? Can you sense their location now? I shook my head. No, I can't sense them yet. But I spent some time going through the Chun family chronicles. A family that has existed for 10,000 years keeps records. Every head of the family is required to write down their life story and the major events that happened during their reign. It's meant to pass down experience to the next generation, to show them what mistakes to avoid and how to solve problems. And those records mention the fetal beads? De Huang pressed. Not directly, I admitted. Then how do you know they're in Langya? I deduced it. I noticed in the records that before the Chun family moved to the Northern Territory, they lived in Langya. While there's no explicit mention of the beads being lost, there are clues. At that time, people were coveting the Chun family's treasures. A massive conflict broke out. The family suffered heavy losses and was eventually driven out of Langya. I paused, thinking back to the text. It's actually quite strange. Based on how the chronicles are usually written, an event that important should have been recorded in detail so future generations would know who their enemies were. But the records are vague. So, De Huang said, still confused. Your family might have enemies in Langya, but that still doesn't give us a lead on the beads. I sighed, looking at the dog. Use your brain for once, will you? I wasn't born with a brain, I was born with a fetal bead, De Huang shot back with a look of disdain. Why should I have to think? This is your problem. The records say the fight started because people wanted the Chun family's treasures, I explained, ignoring his attitude. By the time the family had declined and ended up in a place like Langya, what treasures could they possibly have left? The only thing passed down from generation to generation was the fetal beads. De Huang scoffed. Are these people crazy? The beads are useless. They have no energy fluctuations, no aura, nothing. As far as I know, nobody can even use them for anything. Starting a war over something like that is insane. That's just human nature, I said. It was a family heirloom for thousands of years. If you didn't know what it was, what would you think? People assumed it was a peerless treasure simply because the Chun family kept it for so long. I'm sure the family denied it, but nobody believed them. That's how the cycle of greed works.